was about to give Gong Yi a warm hug. Gong Yi turned around, walked around to the passenger seat, opened the door, and took Huami out of the car. That attitude was so attentive. Zhou Cheng was stunned. What happened to the promise that everyone would dedicate their lives to their respective cities and grow old alone? No. Maybe Gong Yi had some difficulties. Maybe she was just a woman with whom he had a deep relationship, but a shallow fate. Zhou Cheng would not admit that he was jealous. He was a single dog who didn't even have a lover. How could Gong Yi, a single titanium dog, betray their vows? Gong Yi brought Huami to Zhou Cheng and introduced them. Ami, let me introduce you to this brother I met when I was in Garrison University, Zhou Cheng, nicknamed Era. Zhou Cheng glared at Gong Yi fiercely, then looked at Huami eagerly. Ami, you are Ami. I have heard of your great name for a long time. He said, how could a single guy like Gong Yi find a girlfriend? It turns out that this beautiful girl is Huami. Huami and Gong Yi are just partners, a pure partnership. Gong Yi put one hand on Huami's shoulder and led her forward. Let's sit inside and talk. Zhou Cheng's eyes widened again. He looked down at his hands. What was it like to be on a woman's shoulder? He had never felt it before. Zhou Cheng. Behind him, Gong Yi, who had already entered the room, sat down with Huami and saw Zhou Cheng's disheveled back in the wind and rain. He finally couldn't help it and called Zhou Cheng. Zhou Cheng finally reacted and followed him into the house. Inside the room, the chief administrator of City C and his wife Qin Zhen had already started talking to Gong Yi. Huami listened to a few words and found out that the management commander and the garrison commander of City C came together this time, just to buy supplies from Xiangqing. She only listened to a few words and then received the news that her garbage station had been upgraded. Unlock Garbage Recycling Station Level 8. Get Sweeping Robot X7 when a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X3 as long as the energy of the level 15 factory is fully charged. The garbage station can be upgraded. Huami suddenly felt that this was a good way to increase her chances of winning a lottery. She looked at the level 15 factory, which had already filled its energy bar and produced X100 orange juice. She currently has 21 sweeping robots outside, which can eat garbage 24 hours a day. So after a while, the energy consumed by the orange juice X100 was replenished. Unlock the 9th level of the garbage recycling station and get the sweeping robot X8 when a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X4. Huami was about to brush it again when she suddenly saw Qin Zhen, the wife of the C City Management Commander, and turned around and started to retch. Excuse me. The C City Management Commander said in front of Gong Yi's astonished eyes. My wife is pregnant, so I hope to keep her in Xiangqing. Gong Yi looked at Qin Zhen in wonder and asked Ma Yongchun, the management commander of City C, doesn't your wife have a bad stomach? He often saw Huami retching like this, but Huami always told him that she had a bad stomach. Ma Yongchun laughed and said, what stomach upset? I thought it was stomach upset at first, but I didn't know that there was something waiting for me here. As he spoke, he gently stroked Qin Zhen's lower abdomen. His eyes were full of joy and worry. The joy is that he is finally going to be a father. What worries me is that, given the current situation in this world and the current situation in City C, I don't know if a child born at this time can be raised. Now I don't care whether the fish are good or not. I just care whether the fish can survive or not. Gong Yi looked at Ma Yongchun's expression in shock, then looked at Qin Zhen, who was covering her mouth with a shy look on her face. He slowly looked at Huami beside him. Suddenly, a possibility came to my mind. But is it possible? Then I heard Qin Zhen say, Miss Hua, right? I heard that you have a lot of folic acid in Xiangqing. Even the garrisons in Xiangqing are taking folic acid. That one. Huami saw that Gong Yi's face looked a little strange, but she didn't have time to talk to him so much. She just replied to Qin Zhen, yes, a little, but now it can only satisfy the pregnant women in Xiangqing. She had one folic acid X 10,000 in the lottery because she felt she could not take so much folic acid. So they found Gong Yi and dumped a bunch of folic acid to each of the garrisons. But later she met Xian Chiru, an obstetrician and gynecologist who suggested that she keep the folic acid for pregnant women in Xiangqing. Now that there are more and more people in Xiangqing, a bottle of folic acid per pregnant woman is still not enough. Oh, We don't mean to buy folic acid in bulk. We also know that these things are not easy to buy. Qingjun looked at Huami with a smile. They got the information from Zhou Cheng, and the supplies in Gong Yi's hands were all bought from Huami. So Qingjun was very polite to Huami. I just want to buy some and eat it myself, Qingjun said as he stroked his belly with his hand and sighed. We in Sea City will definitely not buy the supplies that Xiangqing lacks. We just want to buy some of the supplies that Xiangqing has in excess. They were very humble, and no one knew how many cities Ma Yongchun and Qingjun had visited to buy supplies before coming to Xiangqing. All the cities rejected them. Only Gong Yi from Xiangqing said that he should ask the people who helped him purchase supplies. People are selfish, and Gong Yi is no exception. He is now the garrison commander of Xiangqing and City B and has a huge responsibility. It doesn't make sense for him to sell supplies to City C when his own two cities are not able to meet their needs. Therefore, the premise of everything must be based on the fact that Huami has sufficient supplies. The reason Qingjun asked about folic acid was simply because she was pregnant and needed folic acid. She asked for herself. Huami nodded, took out a piece of paper and a pen, and wrote down the supplies she could currently sell to City C: oranges, self-heating hot pot, dark mustard flavor, semi-finished Orleans roast chicken, respirator, mineral water, orange juice, ethanol, painkillers, sterile gauze, hemostatic gel, goggles, condoms, resin gloves, protective clothing, sterile boots, rescue rope, engineer shovel, waterproof tarpaulin. So many? Zhou Qing stood behind Gong Yi, and he read whatever Huami wrote. She wrote down almost everything that Huami's level 15 factory could produce infinitely. Finally, Huami handed the list of supplies to Ma Yongchun. I have all of these in stock, and I won't raise your price. I'll sell them to you in City C at the same price as Commander Gong. But there is one thing. I am not responsible for shipping. You need to drag the supplies back to City C by yourselves. The three people from City C were shocked by Huami's list of supplies. They didn't expect that the list of supplies Huami provided would be so long, although most of them are medical items. But they're also in short supply of medical supplies, extremely short supply. This is too exaggerated. Ma Yongchun looked at the list of supplies and was about to speak. Then I heard Huami say, the first 3 items are limited in quantity. We can consider selling them to you in quantities under 100,000, but the rest are unlimited in quantity. You can buy as many as you want. Qingjun, who thought he would have to waste some time arguing, looked at Huami in shock. Was she dreaming? Because she was facing obstacles everywhere in reality, she was so anxious that she had such a good dream. Huami looked at Qingjun. I can guarantee your personal dosage of folic acid. I really don't have more here, and I have a lot of pregnant women here. Wait a minute. Gong Yi finally grasped the key point. He tilted his head, frowned, and asked Huami, pregnant women take folic acid? Why do you take so much folic acid every day? Okay, that's a very good question. Huami looked at Gong Yi with a smile, pursed her lips, and did not answer. Gong Yi looked at Qingjun in doubt. Should I take folic acid for stomach problems? If he remembered correctly, Huami took folic acid 3 times a day. Qingjun smiled and waved his hand. Why should I take folic acid for stomach problems? I am taking care of the baby in my belly. The doctor said that folic acid supplements are necessary during pregnancy. A loud thunder sounded above Gong Yi's head, and all objects in the room shook. When Huami saw this, she suddenly looked towards Gong Yi. His handsome face was so gloomy that water could drip out of it. Ma Yongchun from City C immediately protected Qingjun and shouted, earthquake. Another earthquake. In fact, there are very few earthquakes in Xiangqing now, and even mudslides have become less frequent. But this does not mean that the disaster in Xiangqing is over. On the contrary, as Huami said, humanity's disaster has just begun. Look at the spreading jelly water. As long as the people of Xiangqing stop pumping water for one day, Xiangqing, which has the lowest terrain, will definitely be submerged by the solidified jelly water. So this earthquake was not a real earthquake. Everything in the room was shaking, except the ground. The only possibility is that Gong Yi was behind this. Huami leaned over to touch Gong Yi and asked in a low voice, are you okay? The vibrating objects around them slowly quieted down. Gong Yi suddenly stood up and held Hua-Mi's wrist. Come out with me for a moment, and let's talk. He was eager to know what was going on, and he wanted to hear the truth. In the pouring rain, Gong Yi was about to speak, but seeing that Hua-Mi was wearing thin clothes, he covered herself with a raincoat made of waterproof oilcloth. He sighed and opened the car door. Go inside and talk. Immediately, without caring what Hua-Mi thought, he stuffed her into the car. The wipers were shaking in front of the car window. Hua-Mi saw Gong Yi get in the car and sit in the driver's seat. She asked, Say what? What? This woman is still asking him. What should he say? Gong Yi sat in the driver's seat and asked with a gloomy face, Why do you need to take folic acid? My stomach. Looking at Gong Yi's expression, Hua-Mi, who had originally planned to tell the truth, subconsciously felt that something was going to go wrong, so she wanted to lie.
Gong Yi interrupted her.
Don't talk about your stomach problems.
I don't want to hear about it.
Hua-Mi frowned. So, what do you want to hear? Hear the truth. Gong Yi stared at her. Hua-Mi, is there any trust between people anymore? I trust you so much. Look, have you ever told me the truth? Let me ask you again. Why do you need to take folic acid? His face looked frighteningly gloomy, and Hua-Mi's body kept shrinking towards the car door. Gong Yi looked so ferocious, as if he wanted to kill someone. Yu Mengmeng's words suddenly rang in her ears. Yu Mengmeng said that her husband didn't want her to get pregnant and wanted her to have an abortion. Because her husband felt that survival had become a problem at this time, and raising another child was beyond his ability to bear. Don't all men want to have children at this time? However, Hua-Mi did not cause any trouble to Gong Yi. On the contrary, she provided Gong Yi with a lot of help. I want to make up for it. Hua-Mi frowned. She secretly prepared to teleport. Under Gong Yi's murderous gaze, Hua-Mi tried to remain calm and asked, Gong Yi, why are you so fierce? This seems to have nothing to do with you.
What's wrong with me?
What does it have to do with you? Are you pregnant? Gong Yi glanced at the windshield wiper in front of the car window. If you are pregnant, you take folic acid, which has a lot to do with me. Hearing this, Hua-Mi couldn't help but sneer. We are not lovers, nor are we married. We just slept together for one night. Even if I am pregnant, do you know that it is your child? Is it not okay for me to be with another man? At this time, anyone who dared to persuade her to have an abortion would be her class enemy. How long? Gong Yi has confirmed that Hua-Mi is pregnant. People really cannot be inspired in a certain direction. Once they are inspired, doubts will roll in like a river. Hua-Mi pursed her lips and said nothing. She was wondering what the chance was of offending this big boss if she flew away now.
Say. Gong Yi yelled, scaring Hua-Mi.
She got angry and said directly, What are you talking about? I'm pregnant, so what? The baby I'm pregnant with is yours, so what? I have money and supplies. Did I let you raise him? My baby will take my last name from now on. What does it have to do with you? When a woman gets angry, a man can't handle it. Gong Yi was obviously furious, but he didn't dare to take any action. If this was the garrison under his command, he would have attacked them long ago. Hua-Mi made him so angry. Not only did she hide the fact that she had a child from him, but she also took his child to fight. Thinking of all the fights Hua-Mi had had before, Gong Yi was so furious that his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys were about to explode. But does he dare to touch Hua-Mi? Every word she says is full of wit. Does he dare to try to hit her? Gong Yi clenched his cheeks, endured Hua-Mi, and tried his best to calm himself down. Don't be angry, don't be angry. If you get angry and get sick, no one can replace you. Don't be angry, don't be angry. He is too strong. If I flick the cotton with just a finger, I'm afraid I'll hurt her and the child. Gong Yi could only endure it. Hua-Mi, please have some conscience. You know how I have treated you during this period. The day after we had that thing, the earthquake happened. Who are you going to find to have a baby with you? After that incident, things happened one after another. Although Gong Yi was very busy, he also knew that Hua-Mi had no time to do anything with a man. As he spoke, Gong Yi grabbed Hua-Mi's wrist. Okay, let's talk about the kids.
My child.
Hua-Mi looked at Gong Yi warily, protecting her belly. You have no right to interfere. She had never had any relatives who treated her sincerely in her 2 lifetimes, so when she had her own flesh and blood, the sense of anticipation of this blood connection was probably something few people would understand. Moreover, these two little guys are about to pass the critical period, and even their heartbeats are showing. Hwami was not afraid of being laughed at when she told others that sometimes when it was late at night and everyone was asleep, she would carefully feel the 2 babies in her belly. I seem to be able to feel that magical sense of connection. Hwami must give birth to these 2 little ones. What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? Without me, would you have a child? Gong-yi also started to act like a rogue. He was just like a scammer, and he had to show off his achievements. I was working hard to contribute that night, but you've always been so heartless in your words. You don't recognize me when you pull up your pants. Okay, I'm used to it, but kid, I also have a part to play. Hwami snorted coldly. Think about this question first, then come and talk to me. After saying that, she disappeared from Gong-yi's hands. Yes, just like that, pop, it suddenly disappeared. Gong-yi was stunned for a moment, then came to his senses, cursed, and drove away. Zhou Cheng, the commander of the Sea City garrison, chased after him and knocked on Gong-yi's car window. Brother, what's wrong with you guys? Do you want to sell these supplies? Sell, sell, sell. I have something to do. I have a child. Your sister-in-law is pregnant with me. Gong-yi rolled down the car window and looked at Zhou Cheng, who was standing outside the window like a petrified man. He suddenly felt an uncontrollable desire to show off and sighed deliberately. I can't help it. I didn't take precautions. You said we have everything. I'm thinking that I still have to give birth. Otherwise your sister-in-law will make trouble with me. It's not like we don't have the conditions to have a child, right? Looking at Zhou Cheng's sour eyes, Gong-yi felt inexplicably proud. Chenger, women are troublesome, and children are troublesome too. How are you going to take care of the baby after it's born? Oh, I forgot. You don't even have a woman. You haven't even tried meat yet. How can you understand the troubles of men like us who are about to become fathers? I won't say any more. I'll go find your sister-in-law. He suddenly understood what a good saying goes. How satisfying it is to base your own happiness on the jealousy of others. Gong-yi felt in a good mood when he saw Zhou Cheng's expression. Zhou Cheng watched Gong-yi leave with envy and jealousy. Why didn't he know that Gong-yi was such a show-off before? How come this single titanium dog has a child? A child of his own. Zhou Cheng is itching to have one. Most of the garrisons are monks. From the time I was a teenager, I entered the garrison camp and then went to the garrison university, where all the students were men. Therefore, there are many garrisons who have not eaten meat until they are in their 30s. Knowing the living environment of the garrison, you can imagine how much Zhou Cheng envied Gong-yi for having a child. Some readers have noticed that the male protagonist of this book is very similar to Yi Laoda in Fat Girl's book. Yes, when Fat Girl was first written, Yi Laoda was very popular, so I thought if one day I could write a male protagonist like Yi Laoda. But that year my writing skills were not good enough, so I didn't dare to write. Now that I have experienced a lot of vicissitudes, I feel that I can start writing, so Boss Gong, based on Boss Yi, was born. Zhou Cheng continued to be hit hard, and now he only thought that it would be great if he could have a girlfriend. It's not that they don't want to find a girlfriend, but they don't know how to find one. Their thoughts and bodies are all confined to a framework by the garrison discipline. At the beginning, you were not allowed to have a girlfriend while stationed. Even if they can be found later, most of them will be more dull than other men. The main manifestation is that courtship is like courting pleasure, and happiness is like wanting to kill. Which woman can understand them? Just like Gong-yi now, he was actually overwhelmed by a huge surprise in his heart, but he called Hwami countless times, but she didn't answer. Gong-yi's huge surprise in his heart turned into a huge anger. Find her for me. If I don't find this woman, I'm not Gong-yi. He drove all the way to the emergency area of the ambulance center. Because Chao Feng once told him something. Chao Feng said that Hwami often went to see a doctor named Xian Chiru in the emergency area. At first Gong-yi thought this was normal because Hwami did look very weak and in poor health. As a girl, it's okay to be a little bit pampered. But now thinking about it carefully, is this a matter of health? He just barged into the emergency room and alarmed Chao Feng. Chao Feng thought something serious had happened, so he hurried over. When he saw that it was Gong Yi, he smiled and asked, "Boss, what's wrong?" "I'm looking for Xian Chiru. Where's that doctor?" Gong Yi's voice was so loud that it sounded like he was going to cause trouble. Xian Chiru was still in the office when she heard a ferocious-looking man outside the door looking for her. Before she could run, she was blocked by Gong Yi in the small office. A pregnant woman who was originally in Dr. Xian's office was so scared that she ran out of the door. Gong Yi sat down in front of Xian Chiru. "I have no other intention in coming here, and Dr. Xian, you don't have to be afraid. I just want to know if my baby in Huami's belly has been with you all this time?" He seemed very anxious, which made Chao Feng, who was standing behind him, stunned. "Sister, Hua has a child? Or their boss? This doesn't seem strange. After all, many people can see the relationship between Sister Hua and the boss." All the garrisons felt that the only one worthy of their boss was Sister Hua. Apart from their boss, there is no other man who is worthy of Sister Hua. But their relationship developed so quickly that even a life was lost. It was too fast. Xian Chiru was a little flustered at first, but then she calmed down when she saw Gong Yi was indeed just sitting opposite her, looking at her eagerly. "You too, really, it seems like you don't want these two children," she said, with a reproachful tone, tapping the table and saying to Gong Yi, "I'm not saying anything, look how long it's been. This is the first time I've seen you here." "Two children?" Chao Feng asked in surprise. He thought that Sister Hua was pregnant with the eldest brother's child, which was shocking enough to him, but he didn't expect that there was something even more shocking. Xian Chiru looked at Gong Yi with condemnation. "I know the world is not good now, and many men don't want children, but you two are both in good condition, so why don't you want children either?" Chao Feng, who was standing behind Gong Yi, suddenly realized that it was no wonder that they had not heard any news. Sister Hua came to see Xian Chiru in secret. No wonder the eldest didn't know he had two children. It seems that the eldest brother doesn't want these two children. Who said, "I don't want it"? Gong Yi wanted to pound the table, but he was afraid to scare Xian Chiru and stop her from telling him Huami's little secret. But he had to make it clear on this principal issue. He wanted two of his children. He wanted no less. This which kept this a secret. If she hadn't kept it a secret, would I have missed so many prenatal checkups? Thinking about it, Gong Yi felt regretful. He didn't want to miss any of his children's examinations, and this was the purpose of his visit to Xian Chiru. He wanted children, and he wanted to understand them. Xian Chiru looked at the man opposite her, who was so powerful that he could cover the sky with one hand in Xiangqing. At this moment, his attitude was both fierce and soft. These are two very contradictory emotions, but they are strangely mixed together and perfectly needed into this man's body. Xian Chiru stared at him for a while before opening the drawer and taking out a fetal care manual. "I will not provide you with Miss Hua's medical records without her authorization, but you can take a look at this first. It contains various precautions for pregnant mothers, such as what to eat, how to conduct prenatal education, etc. You can take a close look at it. You can ask Miss Hua for the ultrasound report of the children later. The two little guys are very resilient and are developing very well. You will be able to interact with the children soon. Don't miss it." As Xian Chiru spoke, Gong Yi nodded. In his big hands, he carefully held the pink fetal care handbook as if he was holding an imperial edict. Okay, I will definitely read it. I will definitely memorize it word for word." He looked like he had asked a wizard to consecrate a Bible. With a silly smile on his face, he held the manual and asked Xian Chiru, "Really? My two children are growing up well? They are my offspring. How can they not have strong vitality? Hey, what do they look like? Do they look like me or their mother?" It is said that people who are in love will say some stupid things. It seems that even though Gong Yi is not in love, he is already stupid now. Xian Chiru couldn't help laughing when she saw Gong Yi's silly look. "We have to wait until they are born before we can compare. But I have to remind you, Commander Gong, don't follow others and insist on having a boy. Although the world is not doing well now, The survival rate of men in difficult environments is not as high as that of women. She knew that many people nowadays did not want to have children. After all, the world was in such a state, so why have children? Xian Chiru also knew that families who really couldn't afford an abortion also secretly hoped that the baby in their bellies was a boy. Because girls are so miserable. In this chaotic world, as a woman, her fate is bleak and her life will be very miserable. Gong Yi was stunned and shook his head quickly. I like them all, whether they are boys or girls, I like them all. He knew that the world today was not very friendly to girls, but he was going to be a father now. A father's strength is like the mountains and the sea, and he can stand up for his children. If he had 2 daughters, he would work hard to make the world a better place. Huami hid alone in the Lianhua Xingxing supermarket in Xiangqing. It's not that she didn't want to answer Gong Yi's call, but Gong Yi's attitude made her feel very bad. It feels like he is Yu Mingming's husband. Having experienced the apocalypse for a lifetime and seen all kinds of tragedies in the apocalypse, Fang Xian, whom he treated as his own sister, has betrayed him again and again. Huami is not someone who can easily let down his guard. Although Gong Yi trusted her wholeheartedly, Huami could not completely trust Gong Yi. This is her shortcoming, indeed. But such shortcomings can allow her to live for a very long time in the apocalypse. So from the very beginning, when Huami learned that she was pregnant, she was prepared to raise the child alone in the apocalypse. Look outside Xian Chiru's office. There are so many men forcing their women to have abortions. She didn't really have high expectations for Gong Yi. All of Gong Yi's reactions were telling Huami that he suddenly learned the news without any careful consideration. So at this time, Huami didn't want to talk to Gong Yi. Once you decide to have a child, you must think carefully and make sure that you are prepared to spend the rest of your life being responsible for another life. This is not something that can be solved simply by saying, I can take responsibility and give birth to the baby. Therefore, from the very beginning, Huami never thought of dragging Gong Yi into the water. She wants Gong Yi to think it over carefully. Does he want it or not? Yes, what needs to be done to fulfill the responsibilities of a father, Huami really does not force this. No, then the 2 of them have to think carefully about it. Under the premise of not affecting the cooperative relationship, Huami insists on giving birth to the child, and the child cannot recognize Gong Yi. Her children didn't need a father who didn't want them and didn't expect them. Her belly was getting bigger day by day, and she couldn't keep this secret any longer, so now was the right time to tell it. Once Gong Yi has figured out how to support Gong Yi, Huami will not change. After all, the 2 of them have been working together quite happily so far. To sum up, Huami doesn't think that answering Gong Yi's call on impulse is a good thing. She sighed, hung up the call from Gong Yi again, made a cup of tea in her supermarket, and quietly watched the heavy rain outside the window. The rain in Xiangqing is already so heavy, so I'm afraid that other cities that should be flooded have already been flooded. The sky is so dark and the living environment for human beings is becoming more and more difficult. She can really understand what those men who don't want children are thinking. If she were an ordinary man, without even putting herself in the shoes of an ordinary man, she would also feel that such living conditions are not suitable for pregnancy and childbirth. It was pouring rain. The sky was completely dark. The mountains and rivers were in shadows, and in the Lianhua Xingxing supermarket, a pregnant mother was feeling rare melancholy. The Huami supermarket was not open to the public, and its area was as large as a residential community. The entire community was razed to the ground by Huami to create her black soil. Turn on security scan. Completion of Security and Defense Works Defense Project. Completed the lighting construction of Xiangqing Road rating. Primary Protection Project obtained 10 square meters of black land. Please select a location for the black land. Get lucky draw X1 remaining draws X5. Suddenly, the row of letters popped up. This light that paved a road in the city was also counted as Huami's safety protection project. She was a little confused because her engineering team had cleared a road before, and this was also considered a safety protection. So many roads in Xiangqing have been cleared. Why aren't they considered her safety protection? Because it wasn't her people who cleared the road? So it didn't count as her contribution? Standing up, Huami stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling mirror and suddenly realized. She rolled up her clothes, looked at her hard belly, and called the contractor. That's right. It doesn't matter if we do it slowly as long as we do it completely by ourselves. Contact the tow removal team at the city management department and ask them to stop working. If they must work, come to my tow removal team. Huami's words startled the contractor. Miss Hua, are you going to take over the urban management of Xiangqing? In fact, it can be taken over. It doesn't matter. After all, Yu Guanglin has run away now, and the management commander of Xiangqing has disappeared. It can be seen how chaotic the management level is. However, because Xiangqing is now taken over by the garrison, the basic functions are still running, such as the city clearance team, which has been moving all the time. I haven't taken it over yet, but I'm not happy that the city wreckers are always taking our business away, so I'll swallow it up first. Huami said this, looked at the mirror and thought for a while, then decided to take off her pants and change into a looser pair of harem pants. Her belly was about to bulge out, and she could no longer hold it in. The contractor on the other end of the phone counted the roster of 400 people in his hand. Miss Hua, we already have 400 people in our engineering team. These 400 people were all carefully selected by me and have relevant circuit work experience. It is a very difficult task to lay lights on the roads in Xiangqing on rainy days. The contractor also needs to consider safety. If there are too many people, it will be difficult to manage. If the city tow clearance team is merged over, plus the original 10-person tow clearance team, plus the police officers on duty at Yang Honglin's side, there must be at least 500 people. This is considered a fairly large infrastructure team. With so many people, they have to pay 5 million yuan in salary a month and also provide so many benefits. You know, Huami is a person who really loves to give out benefits. Every now and then, she gives them oranges and straw sandals. In this world where supplies are scarce and it is raining heavily, it is always better to have a pair of soft, tough, and comfortable straw sandals than to wear rotten shoes. So their engineering team and clearance team, collectively known as the infrastructure team, now have a pair of straw sandals for each person. The topic has gone off topic. What the contractor meant was that he was worried that Huami would not have enough supplies to feed so many people. After all, the supplies in Xiangqing's supply warehouse have been used up, and the supplies that Xiangqing people eat are all from Huami. Huami has to support a city, as well as Qichuan's material transport team and the small trading gang. Can she support a 500-person infrastructure team? While she was talking to the contractor on the phone, Huami's phone kept receiving calls. All of them were caused by Gong Yi. She chose to deal with the contractor's matter first. Anyway, now that she had received Gong Yi's call, she didn't know what to say to Gong Yi. If they quarrel over the children, it will damage their partnership. Soon, Gong Yi found that the call could not be connected, so he sent a message. Gong Yi, you answer the phone, let's talk it out. Gong Yi, you can't be so unreasonable. I also have a share in the child, and I have made contributions. Just let me see him. He didn't seem to want a child, so Huami thought about it, took out the most recent ultrasound report, took a photo of it, and sent it to Gong Yi. Gong Yi no longer replied to messages. Huami was busy talking to the contractor on the phone again. You only have 500 people in your team? Sister Hua felt that she was being looked down upon. She thought the contractor might not know how much money she could earn every day. In this kind of world, the speed at which she makes money is only slightly faster than the world's richest man before the disaster. So, what is a 5 million yuan salary a month? She can afford a 50 million yuan salary a month. Huami sighed. Bauer, you are so ignorant. There are only 500 people here, and you are yelling. Not only the obstacle removal team, but your engineering team must also speed up and do more infrastructure. You have to raise my wall for me by another 10 meters. If you are really short of manpower, just recruit more people. As long as they are honest and clean, recruit them into our infrastructure team. In fact, Huami felt that the 2-meter-high wall outside the Lotus Xingxing supermarket was too short. It has to be continuously raised. When mutant animals appear in the future, 10-meter walls will appear short. Huami changed into harem pants and sterile boots and came to the backyard of the supermarket. During this period, Gong Yi became much quieter, with no phone calls or text messages. Huami was waiting for Gong Yi's reaction after looking at the ultrasound report. The backyard of her supermarket was like an orchard. In the pervasive black fog, there stood a tree grove of fruit trees, all bearing fresh fruits. Huami was thinking about what to do with her newly acquired 10 square meters of black land. Because one type of fruit is planted on 1 square meter, and as the root system of this type of fruit grows stronger, the fruit trees will grow more and more luxuriantly. Then the square meters cannot be so close to each other, otherwise the fruit trees will fight with each other, right? So these magical black soils have produced their own rarefaction. That is, as the fruit trees on your own land grow bigger and bigger over time, the distance between 1 square meter of black soil will automatically widen. So the dozens of square blocks of black soil that were originally close to each other are now sparse and scattered, like crooked teeth, scattered in Huami's backyard. Especially next to the giant orange tree, there was nothing but darkness. All the black soil has been squeezed out by the giant orange trees. Huami was a little troubled. She could only find a vacant lot in the front yard and settle 10 square meters of black soil. She then planted the following trees: citrus, plum, bayberry, mulberry, tea tree, jute, rubber tree, camphor tree, broadleaf basswood, and Ganoderma lucidum. Huami planted all the seeds in her hand that could be planted, and when she saw some tree seeds, she planted those too. We can't just let the land go to waste. Besides, planting trees is good. If you plant trees, you will have wood to build houses in the future. After planting the trees, Huami received a call from Qingjin. In human society, there is a kind of social interaction called ladies' social interaction. Qingjin's purpose of staying in Xiangqing, in addition to taking care of the fetus, was also to maintain a good relationship with Huami. From Zhou Cheng, the management commander, and his wife of City C learned that Huami was pregnant with Gong Yi's child. The two are definitely an official couple. Before leaving Xiangqing, Ma Yongchen spent 200,000 yuan to buy 2 universal signal connectors from the RV supermarket. To facilitate communication between himself and his wife, and also to facilitate his wife's diplomacy. Qingjin greeted Huami enthusiastically on the phone. Our old Ma and Commander Zhou have gone back for the survivors in City C, leaving me in Xiangqing now. Thank you, Mrs. Gong, for your generosity. Mrs. Gong, I found a place to live in Xiangqing, and I also contacted a group of wives in our C City. Their husbands are all well-known figures in C City. I learned that Madame Gong and I know each other, and we all want to meet Madame Gong. Madame Gong, would you like to come out and play mahjong? Playing mahjong? Sorry, Huami doesn't know how to play. Huami didn't feel guilty at all about not being able to play mahjong as someone who had lived 2 lifetimes. In her mind, this is a self-defeating activity. Not only will she not participate in it, she also has no interest in doing so. So Huami politely declined Qingjin's invitation and sincerely reminded Qingjin, "You don't have to call me Madame Gong, because Gong Yi and I have no relationship. I am neither his wife, nor his girlfriend, let alone his lover. To be precise, I am just a supplier who gets what I want from Boss Gong. For adults, adult love is not a serious crime." Originally, she and Gong Yi had not reached a consensus on this matter, but now the impact has expanded further and spread to the circle of wealthy ladies in City C. Huami could imagine what those wives in the circle were saying about her. Then she would have even less interest in wasting her time and energy on socializing as a lady. Qingjin paused on the other end of the phone, shocked by Huami's honesty. "Miss Hua, you're joking. You too already have a child, and Commander Gong has only one woman." She is a woman who lives in the upper structure and enjoys a life of luxury. So Qingjin couldn't quite understand Huami's thoughts. At this time, a woman should seek a safe shelter to ensure that she could live well. Just like her, if Qingjin's man was not Ma Yongchen, the management commander of City C, she would probably be like the survivors of City C now, living a miserable life and struggling to make ends meet every day. It is precisely because of Ma Yongchuan's existence that Qingjin has the time and energy to engage in social activities among the ladies in Xiangqing. You can still live a life of luxury.
So, what if I have a child?
Before hanging up Qingjin's phone, Huami said slowly, "From the beginning, I didn't intend to use the child to tie Commander Gong down. He is him, and I am me. It's not like I can't raise a child, so why do I have to find a man to help me raise the child? I'm not saying this to target Madame Ma. I'm just born this way. If you rely on mountains, they will collapse. If you rely on the sea will dry up. If you rely on people, they will run away. So I've always relied on myself. I don't need a child to bind a man's heart, nor do I need a child to support me in the future, and I don't need a man to help change the child's material living conditions. I want a child just because I want my heart to be less lonely. On this long journey, I can have a blood relative who can be remembered by me while I am fighting. Gong Yi was sitting in the passenger seat of the jeep and Chao Feng was driving for him. No matter what Chao Feng said, Gong Yi didn't think about it and didn't respond. He was only thinking about his two cubs now. Huami, photo.jpg. The information finally came. Gong Yi clicked it and saw two little seahorses on it. The ultrasound pictures are in black and white. Nowadays, being able to produce a black and white B ultrasound picture is considered to be a sign of advanced medical care in Xiangqing. I think many cities don't even have this kind of pregnancy test method. Gong Yi was shocked. After thinking calmly for a few hours, he couldn't help but send a message to Huami. Gong Yi, why does it look like a seahorse? Did Huami fight too much, so her children became mutants? Why did they grow up like this? Huami in the Lotus Xingxing supermarket had ended the call with Qingjin. Seeing Gong Yi's text message at this moment, she wanted to beat Gong Yi to death as a fool. Huami, what do you think a baby who is less than 3 months old will look like? Huami, Gong Yi, please stop being silly, okay? They started out as two tadpoles growing little by little. The last few times I saw them, they looked like 2 commas. Huami is not exaggerating. Isn't this the case with all children? They grow little by little from a tadpole and finally become a baby, coming out of their mother's belly. Gong Yi, this is my first time seeing you. Can you show me the ultrasound photos from the previous times? After learning that the child was fine, he sat in the passenger seat, looking at the baby's photo on his phone, with a smile on his face. Chao Feng tilted his head to look at him, and outside the car window were colorful lights. The contractor worked quickly and has completed the installation of the lights on road. Once the lights were in place, this road developed into the most prosperous and lively road in Xiangqing. The roadside of, which is filled with colorful lights, is full of people setting up stalls and patrolling troops. Ever since Xiangqing canceled the free supply of 2 meals a day, more people have suddenly come out to do business. Someone had stockpiled a lot of oranges before and they didn't go bad even after being kept for a month or 2. Although many of the oranges looked a little old, when you peeled off the skin, the orange segments inside were still juicy and sweet. So many people took out the oranges they had hoarded earlier and sold them. So on the roadside of, the most common stalls are orange stalls. Of course, there were also many people who sold their belongings in exchange for money. Now, every meal in Xiangqing requires money. Money before the disaster was still quite important in Xiangqing. Dafu and Xiaofu took the money given by Huami and stayed in front of these stalls every day, looking for all kinds of useful and useless things. The two of them kept Huami's words in mind. No matter whether it was useful or not, as long as it was a good one, they would buy it first. Canceling the 2 free meals a day is a nuclear-level issue, and many survivors in Xiangqing cause trouble every day. Those survivors may make as much noise as they want, but once they are found to be destructive, for example, destroying the light bulbs that the contractor has worked so hard to light, or littering everywhere, they will be kicked out of Xiangqing. But more survivors, after the initial shock and panic, began to think with a normal brain about how to quickly acquire wealth while complying with the rules of the game, in exchange for more survival supplies. This is in line with the tone of extreme survival in the apocalypse. Chao Feng withdrew his gaze from the car window and was suddenly shocked. He saw that under the illumination of the light outside the window, Gong Yi, who was sitting next to the car window, had red eyes. Boss, for a moment, Chao Feng was at a loss. People like them shed more blood than tears. I can say responsibly that this is the first time that Chao Feng has seen their boss cry in all the years he has followed Gong Yi.
I'm fine.
Gong Yi rubbed his eyes, not because he was embarrassed, but because he was such a grown man, and yet he was crying in front of his subordinates. It was because there were tears in his eyes and he couldn't see the two little seahorses in the photo clearly. "These are my two children." Gong Yi showed Chao Feng the photos in his mobile phone. Chao Feng quickly stopped the car, turned his head to look over, and asked in surprise, "What's Sister Hua pregnant with? Why do they look like two little monsters? Do children look like this when they are in their mother's belly? Nonsense. Could it be that they are in your belly?" Gong Yi took the photo back like a treasure, holding it in his big hands and looking at it carefully. As I watched, my eyes became red unconsciously. Now Rong Gongyi will introduce his background. Garrisons are born like that. They are born by their parents but not raised by them. Many people may object to this, but this is the fact. They joined the garrison when they were teenagers, and it was like living in a Buddhist temple. They didn't have much contact with their original families. Even with the families they have formed now, they don't have much contact. This is probably to allow the garrison to maintain ideological unity to the greatest extent possible and to enable the garrison to better obey orders. Gong Yi was born into a garrison family. The so-called garrison family sounds good to outsiders, but in fact only Gong Yi himself understands that he was born in a garrison camp, grew up in a garrison camp, went home to the garrison camp, and left home is still the garrison camp. He knew the garrison better than anyone else, because ever since he was a child and could remember, everyone he saw was wearing a garrison uniform. Grandpa, Grandma, Grandpa, and Grandma. The older generation are all hung on the wall. Without exception, they sacrificed their lives for the mission, and when they died, they were wearing garrison uniforms. His parents were stationed there, wearing garrison uniforms. They had uniform requirements, uniform management, and uniform tone of voice for Gong Yi. Finally, they all died during a mission. The most outrageous thing Gong Yi, who was born into a garrison family, had ever done in his life was to mistake a paper man for his dream lover. I had a crush on her for several years. A few years later, he spent a crazy night with his flesh and blood paper dream lover. How could a man who grew up in such an identity not be so excited when he saw the two little guys on the phone? From then on, he also had relatives in this world who were connected by blood, not just the kind that hung on the wall. Instead, it was alive and well, with flesh and blood, growing up in the belly of his dream lover and finally being born amid his deep anticipation. He would protect his daughters and raise them like princesses. He would use his best abilities to give his little princesses the best treasures in the world. Thinking about it, Gong Yi's heart softened and he couldn't help but shed tears. After the little princesses are born, he will definitely not let their world be filled with garrison uniforms.
He has already thought about it.
He wants to prepare pink princess dancing shoes, a shiny princess crown, and a puffy princess skirt. Boss, the guys near the Lotus Xingxing supermarket said they saw Sister Hua in the underground parking lot below the Lotus Xingxing supermarket. Chao Feng hung up the phone and turned to report to Gong Yi. Gong Yi nodded and said, "Go catch her outside the Lotus Xingxing supermarket." He had a serious look on his face, but his eyes were red. People who didn't know him would have thought he was going to deal with some important villain. Chao Feng also had a serious look on his face. He stepped on the accelerator and sped towards Lotus Xingxing. At this time, Huami threw the mats produced in the black soil into the underground parking lot, covering half of the underground first floor of the parking lot. There is no way there is really too much straw. Although Yi Rong recruited people non-stop and worked in 3 shifts 24 hours a day to weave straw mats, such as straw hats, straw sandals, straw raincoats, and straw skirts. She even found a contractor to build 100 straw mat houses with straw. Huami was still able to accumulate a large pile of straw after a period of time. Without any intention, I had occupied half of the parking lot on the underground first floor. Except for the production of mat grass, which is already on par with that of oranges, the production of grapefruit and apple is only slightly slower than that of oranges. The last time the lottery was drawn, the growth speed special effect of the orange had already expired, but Huami did not feel relieved. But because of the continuous harvest of oranges, the orange in her backyard has grown into a giant. Can you imagine that an orange tree occupies the entire planned supermarket backyard? Huami had never seen such a thick and big orange tree in her life. The harvest every time was worth millions of oranges. Although the growth rate is not as fast as before, the yield of oranges harvested each time has not decreased. Of course, the area of mat grass is not much different from that of oranges, and the harvesting period of mat grass is short. After the initial struggle, the production of grapefruit and apples is now very good. There are also cherries, pomegranates, kiwis, and cantaloupes planted behind the grapefruits and apples, and their yields are gradually increasing. Now it also occupies a lot of Huami's storage space. She dumped all the fruits on the underground parking lot on the first, second, and third floors. Then, he teleported to the teleportation point of Xiangqing Rescue Center. Gong Yi and Chao Feng rushed to the outside of Lianhua Xingxing Supermarket. Chao Feng pressed the doorbell and was about to turn around to ask Gong Yi to wait. But Gong Yi turned around and left. "She is not here. Let all the brothers check where she is." After a while, Chao Feng hung up the phone with a confused look on his face and said to Gong Yi, "Boss, the brothers discovered that someone who looks like Sister Hua appeared near the RV supermarket." "Walk." Gong Yi spoke briefly, jumped into the car, and rushed to the RV supermarket with Chao Feng. Huami walked around the yard behind the RV supermarket. There were not many supplies that belonged to her. What was piled up were all things that Dafu and Xiaofu bought from various stalls. There were hand drums, desks, second-hand books, printers, air conditioners, projectors, A4 paper, blank printing paper. The second-hand books alone filled up the entire warehouse behind the RV supermarket. Some books were not well protected by the survivors and were wet when they were bought by Dafu and Xiaofu. As a result, after being stored in the backyard warehouse for a few days, the moisture was absorbed by the waterproof tarpaulin. It has definitely become a good book. Huami casually flipped through the books piled up on the open space, then called Dafu and Xiaofu over and gave each of the two children 1 million in cash. Yes, cash. This is Huami's latest discovery. In her cashier system, she can not only withdraw virtual amounts on social software, but also withdraw cash. Just click on the small plus sign behind Withdrawal Amount Yuan to open a lower-level page. There will be a choice above: withdraw virtual currency or withdraw cash. If Huami chooses to withdraw cash, then brand new banknotes with serial numbers will appear in Huami's level 17 storage space. Considering that there are many survivors now who do not have universal signal connectors, they can only choose to trade in cash. So Huami gave Dafu and Xiaofu 1 million in cash each. "You two take this money and buy all the books you can from those stalls. Buy as many as you can." She still hopes that her two cubs can read more books in the future. Because Huami knows that if humanity's disastrous course continues in this way, there will be a break in civilization. In her previous life, she lived to the end of the world. The second generation of survivors was born and grew up in the end of the world. Therefore, Huami can clearly feel how huge the impact of cultural gaps is on human beings. The difference lies in that the generation of survivors still understand what propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame are, can read letters, speak tactfully, do things in an organized manner, and understand layout. The second generation of survivors is a disaster. Everyone is illiterate, everyone eats raw meat and drinks blood, everyone has no sense of propriety, righteousness, integrity, and everyone is involved in all kinds of messed up CPs. Forget it. Huami feels sad when she thinks of the second generation of survivors. So, kids, you must study and do your homework. Books are the ladder of human progress. Now Huami wants to save as many of the ladders as she can. It can be regarded as her small contribution to the future second generation of happiness. After giving instructions to Dafu and Xiaofu, Huami turned around and went into the warehouse behind the RV supermarket. She stuffed all the books and the office supplies bought by Dafu and Xiaofu into the storage room on level 17. The wall behind the RV supermarket was filled with condoms, mineral water, medical supplies, and fruits. Then, Huami came out of the yard and walked around the RV supermarket. Now the entire square is occupied by Huami's goods, and water pumps are piled up in the square outside the RV supermarket. Huami took a look and gave the contractor a new infrastructure task. "Huami, You surround the square of the rescue center with a circle of barbed wire and build some sheds inside the wire mesh, using waterproof tarpaulin to cover the sheds. Hwami, I see the location of the rescue center's square. This place is very good. I will use it to store supplies in the future. The original garrison material department of the rescue center has now been demolished and converted into a food operation area. There were dozens of large stoves there, which were originally used to cook rice and fry vegetables for the survivors of Xiangqing. Now that Xiangqing's 2 free meals have been cancelled, this place has become much more deserted. It now mainly provides meals for the injured and medical staff in the emergency area who are unable to take care of themselves. The side dishes produced in Hwami's black soil just meet the needs of the emergency area. The yield of side dishes will increase over time and with more harvests. The only thing missing was the rice and flour. There was a large amount of rice stored in her level 18 warehouse. However, because there was no suitable thresher, all of the rice and the rice stalks were left idle. As for how to deal with this batch of rice, Hwami decided to wait a little longer. She had previously bought a large amount of rice from an agricultural trade giant, and combined with the supplies from the supply warehouse in City B, it would be enough to feed the survivors in Xiangqing and City B for a while. Hwami will go back and discuss with Gong Yi and ask Gong Yi to find some threshers to thresh the rice so that the rice consumption can keep up. Hwami would debit all of these from the trillions that Gong Yi had given her. After replenishing the stock of side dishes, Hwami flew to the Xiangqing Watchtower teleportation point. At this time, Chao Feng drove and took Gong Yi to the outside of the RV supermarket. Before Chao Feng got out of the car, Gong Yi lowered his head and rubbed his eyebrows. She is not here anymore. Let the brothers look for her again. Boss, you haven't gotten out of the car yet. Chao Feng was a little unwilling to give up. They were driving, and if Sister Hua was also driving, they should have arrived at the RV supermarket one after the other. She's not here. Gong Yi's cheeks moved, and he said this with a hint of gnashing of teeth. His nerve power or mental power. He can see all the people and things in this area. So even if he didn't get off the car, he knew that Hwami was gone. Vixens really know how to run. Chao Feng called his brothers in Xiangqing in confusion. After a few hms, he hung up the phone and said to Gong Yi in surprise, "Boss, the brothers said Sister Hua is in the watchtower."
Chase.
Gong Yi is determined today. He must meet Hwami and make things clear about his daughters. Xiangqing Watchtower is located outside the Iron Gate of Xiangqing. It has been surrounded by a large area of racks, and dozens of migrant workers are bending over to bury light bulbs. Because they were working in heavy rain, a super large shed had been built with waterproof tarpaulin, and all the survivors had been cleared away. No one saw how Hwami suddenly appeared. The contractor, with a mouthful of gold teeth, straightened up and was about to say a few encouraging words, but when he turned around, he saw Hwami standing at the center of the teleportation point of Xiangqing Watchtower. "Miss Hua?" The contractor was a little surprised. He didn't know when Miss Hua came. He hurried forward and flattered her. "Miss Hua, you came without telling me in advance. Look how messy it is here. Be careful. Watch your step." Hwami pointed to a pile of tea for clearing the mind and improving eyesight, potato chips, lime flavor, melon seeds, caramel flavor, oranges, grapefruits, apples, cherries, pomegranates, kiwis, and cantaloupes.
These are souvenirs for you.
Come and have some when you are done with your work. A group of people looked over, all with a look of surprise on their faces. When did a small hill suddenly appear here? Sure enough, they were so busy with the infrastructure construction that they had forgotten that someone had transported a small hill of supplies into the greenhouse.
Thank you, Miss Hua.
It's really nice to work with Miss Hua. The contractors were not surprised by the appearance of these comfort items. Often when they were busy, a pile of supplies would suddenly appear on the construction site. It was a gift of comfort given to them by Miss Hua. Are real extra gifts that are not included in the daily salary. So, can the contractor not worship Miss Hua like an ancestor? These days, money and other things are virtual, and only real materials are real. So the contractor shouted at the top of his voice, "Everyone cheer up and finish the work at hand, and then you can share the fruits and snacks." Okay. Everyone was in high spirits and full of energy. Supplies are in front of them, and that is their motivation. Miss Hua, come here and take a look. On a busy construction site, the foreman led Hua Mi mysteriously to a piece of cement space that had already been lit. He took out a drill and, under Hua Mi's puzzled gaze, started drilling at the smooth cement on the ground.
Huh.
This. Hua Mi looked at the motionless cement floor in surprise and asked, "What's going on? Why isn't the cement drill moving?" Then she realized that last time a few thugs had been looking for trouble with her. They drove a car and tried to crash down the wall of her supermarket. As a result, not even the dust on the wall was knocked off. The contractor said mysteriously, "This is the cement that Miss Hua gave us. It's strong and durable. If we can have more of it, we can rebuild the entire Xiangqing. Why would we be afraid of earthquakes?" Hua Mi was greatly inspired, but unfortunately, the cement in her hands was all won in a lottery, and there was no way to produce it in fixed quantities. She thought for a moment and said to the contractor, "It's not enough to just build cement. You need to build a circle of platforms around the open space to mount machine guns and build a few small artillery platforms nearby." As Hua Mi was talking, the contractor was puzzled. Is Miss Hua going to fight? Why is it so strictly guarded when it is just a piece of open space covered with patterns? However, the contractor is Hua Mi's chief lackey. Although he is confused, he will definitely not show it. He nodded and flattered her to the utmost. Yes, Miss Hua is right. How about we seek cooperation from the garrison and ask them to provide a professional attack and defense map? Okay, discuss this with Chao Feng. I want to make sure not even a fly can fly in at this point. Hua Mi pointed to the 1 square meter black land teleportation point in the center of the open space. Now no one can understand why she would spend so much money to build such a piece of flat land and make it so fancy. But when zombies and mutated plants and animals appear, they will understand how many lives can be saved by having such a teleportation point. As long as this teleportation point exists, no matter what kind of monster the survivors are trapped in, they can kill them and return to the city. So, can't this teleportation point be built stronger and safer? After explaining the situation to the contractor, Hua Mi found a deserted place, teleported, ran out of Xiangqing, and came to City B. Material Depot. As soon as she left, Chao Feng and Gong Yi's car arrived at the watchtower. This time, before Chao Feng could look over, the car they were riding in exploded. "Boss, it's dangerous," Chao Feng shouted and looked around. At the critical moment, only one thought came to his mind. Who dared to attack them? Chao Feng didn't understand. Who did it? Was it Chen Hu from City A? The Xiangqing garrison had made enemies with Chen Hu. Thousands of thoughts passed through Chao Feng's mind. At this critical moment, he rushed to the commander beside him, intending to use his own life to protect his commander. However, Gong Yi was knocked to the ground by him in the broken garrison jeep, his face also full of shock. He was just angry and wanted to tear Hua Mi apart, so why did the car explode? It exploded and broke into pieces, but he and Chao Fengren, who were sitting in the car, were unharmed. Gong Yi was as frightened as Chao Feng. Chao Feng was frightened by the enemy's sneak attack. There was no sign of it at all, and they didn't receive any news beforehand. The enemy is too powerful. They must have started a decapitation operation. Gong Yi was frightened by his own psychotic abilities. Looking at the garrisons running towards him from a distance and quickly forming a human wall around him, Gong Yi was too embarrassed to say anything. It wasn't that they were ambushed. He could see clearly everyone and everything within a radius of nearly 10 meters, so no one could sneak attack him. It wasn't like someone had planted a bomb under his car. It was caused by his neurotic abilities. Hua Mi said that his special ability was very powerful, and he could accomplish anything as long as he thought about it. It seemed to be true. Amid the human wall, Gong Yi took a deep breath. No, he had to stay calm. Otherwise, he would accidentally tear Hua Mi apart, and he would regret it for the rest of his life. Boss, before Chao Feng finished speaking, Gong Yi patted Chao Feng on the shoulder and said calmly, "Let the brothers check where your sister Hua went." They were on full alert, holding their guns, and placed their leader in the human wall of the garrison command center. Chao Feng was stunned. Yes, at this time, The enemy had already started the decapitation operation, and the boss's car had been tampered with. How could they let Sister Hua go? Chow Feng protected Gong Yi and quickly took out his cell phone to make a call. He asked nervously, then turned back with a serious look. Boss, the brothers haven't seen Sister Hua in Xiangqing. Oh my god, Xiangqing is going to be destroyed, and I can't handle it. Chow Feng cried violently in his heart. Sister Hua must have been kidnapped by the enemy. Gong Yi nodded. She is no longer in Xiangqing. Then, Gong Yi took out his cell phone and called Tang Yu. Tang Yu is currently stationed at the supply warehouse in City B. He greeted Hua Mi, who was walking out from the depths of the warehouse. Sister Hua. Then, Tang Yu picked up the phone. Boss. Is your Sister Hua in the supply warehouse in City B? Gong Yi tried hard to control his emotions and closed his eyes. His neurotic ability only allowed him to see a map with a radius of a few meters, and he could not see places as far away as City B exist. When Tang Yu saw Hua Mi approaching, he stood up straight and saluted Hua Mi. Sister Hua, the boss is looking for you. Looking for me? Haven't we made everything clear? Hua Mi reached out, took the phone from Tang Yu's hand, and asked Gong Yi on the phone. The ultrasound report can be sent to you. I have taken a photo and sent it to you. What else do you want to do? On the other end of the phone, Gong Yi took a deep breath and said calmly, let's talk about our daughters. Don't worry, I definitely want the children. I will be responsible for them, so, as their parents, we need to have a good talk. Hua Mi rolled her eyes. I don't even know if these two children are daughters or not. How do you know? I guess. Thinking of his little princesses, Gong Yi had a gentle smile on his face. I think princesses are great. I want to have 2 little princesses. This was his hope. After Xian Chiru had that conversation with him, Gong Yi suddenly had expectations about the gender of the child. He just wanted a daughter. He hoped it would be a daughter. Hua Mi was speechless because of this little duck. She calmly explained to the silly duck, I'm happy that you want these 2 children, but I'm not sure if they are daughters. Hua Mi hasn't thought about whether it's a boy or a girl. They are all her children anyway, and they will be the same no matter what. But the man and the woman had completely different ideas. Gong Yi wanted a daughter very, very much. He said to Hua Mi, didn't you say that I am a psychopath with special abilities and that I can achieve anything I want? Who told you you're crazy? That's mental power, boss. Hua Mi was about to jump up and down. How could such a high-sounding mental power become a psychotic power when it came out of Gong Yi's mouth? Yes, since I have the mental power, then I can definitely have a daughter if I want. Gong Yi smiled on the other end of the phone and said to Hua Mi, for the sake of our daughter, we need to sit down and have a good talk face to face.
How do you want to talk about it?
What aspects of the child do you want to talk about? Hua Mi thought that Gong Yi, a big boss, might have the potential to be a daughter captive. Why did he keep talking about his daughter? Forget it. She would not bother with a daughter captive. Hua Mi is just listening to see if she is interested in what Gong Yi wants to talk about. If she is interested, they will sit down and talk. If she is not interested, no matter how thick Gong Yi's thigh is, Hua Mi will still refuse to cooperate. It's good that she has something to talk about now. Gong Yi, who was in the human wall, gestured to Chow Feng, asking Chow Feng to prepare the car and head towards City B. Let's talk about your current pregnancy problem and whether your daughters should have both parents after they are born. Gong Yi had never spoken to anyone so patiently. His voice was the most gentle in history, and the people around him all pricked up their curious ears. What? Sister Hua is pregnant? Or a daughter? What? Sister Hua's daughter's father, or their eldest brother. The tight-lipped garrisons, while defending, ignited their gossipy souls one by one. So the boss said before that Sister Hua was just his female friend, which was indeed a subtle statement. Everyone can see that the boss has a special feeling for Sister Hua, and they really did not choose the wrong couple. Although the boss has no other CP for them to choose except Sister Hua. But they were still very happy that Lauda and Sister Hua really succeeded. From now on, Sister Hua would be their forever and true Sister Hua. Okay, I'll be back then. Hua Mi felt that the direction Gong Yi wanted to discuss was more reliable, and she did not object. For the sake of their children, they should have a good talk about these 2 aspects. She hung up the phone and was about to speak when she looked at Tang Yu, whose eyes were blazing with gossip. Hua Mi, who was just about to fly back to Xiangqing, was stunned when she heard this, and she looked at Tang Yu. Tang Yu was a little excited and turned around to report the matter to Gong Yi. They had been preparing for this day since the day they joined the garrison. Don't ask why they have to fight over and over again on the training ground for 10 years, constantly training how to attack and how to defend. The world is obviously at peace. Human society has sufficient supplies, and other cities will not attack our city. Obviously, everyone is speaking politely, and everyone shakes hands politely when they meet without making any noise or quarrels. If there are conflicts or disputes, they go to the police, and if there are disputes, they go to the internet to complain, and thousands of internet trolls will come to help. Obviously, in this world, there is no longer any need to station troops and use human flesh as shields to resist enemy fire attacks on a large scale. However, the garrison still practices day after day, attack, defense, defense, and attack. What is the purpose? It is because there is even a 1 in a billion chance that the city they are guarding will be attacked by fire.
Just like now.
Gong Yi received Tang Yu's report calmly, and he was also very excited. After decades of hard work, today, the garrison finally has its place to be put to good use. Which garrison wouldn't be excited? Investigate the enemy's number and firepower, defend the material depot in City B, keep a close eye on the enemy's movements, and at all costs, do not let the firepower spread to City B. I will come to support you immediately. Gong Yi began to make arrangements in an orderly manner, then lowered his head and lit a cigarette for himself. The scarlet tobacco was burning, and all the garrisons around him moved rapidly. The radio telegraph car and armored vehicles were in place, and the number of people was counted. Some were left to defend Xiangqing, while the rest were loaded onto the garrison transport vehicles and set off for City B while conducting reconnaissance along the way. No matter who the enemy is, if they dare to launch a fire raid on the supply depot in City B, we will be done with it. In the speeding armored vehicle, Gong Yi was looking at the topographic map of City B in his hand while calling Huami City. B is not the city where he is stationed, and he is not familiar with the terrain of City B, especially now that the mountains and rivers have undergone drastic changes in the earthquake. But it did not affect his redrawing of the map on the spot. I have to say that Gong Yi's neurological ability is quite useful at this moment. As long as his car keeps driving forward, he will be able to see the terrain map within a few meters. As long as he walked through enough places, he would be able to know everything around him in the dark without having to send out garrisons to investigate. Have you returned to Xiangqing?
Gong Yi frowned.
He had a bad feeling that what Huami would say next might not be what he wanted to hear. Huami in the B City supply warehouse was throwing PKM into the corner. It's already this late. Why are you replying? I want to go fight. She held the cell phone in one hand and carried the PKM in the other. After thinking for a while, she placed a bunch of AK-47s next to the PKM. Fight, 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 it's so much fun. Gong Yi closed his eyes, inhaled, exhaled, and repeated it 3 times. He said gently, let's go back to Xiangqing. I know you have a way to get out.
You are not alone now.
Let's go back first. We are there. No. At this time, when the nest is overturned, no one will be left unbroken. You understand this better than I do, sir. So, what if I return to Xiangqing? This is the first real battle fought by the garrison. If we can't win this battle today, anyone can step on Gong Yi's face in the future. Anyone can form a team and attack City B or Xiangqing. Isn't Huami in Xiangqing also in danger? Therefore, you have to defeat your opponent with one move and show your level of skills. Gong Yi was still trying to persuade her, but Huami simply hung up the phone and blocked him. It was already this late, and she was still complaining. It turned out that the man would only affect her shooting speed. Beep, beep, beep sound on the phone. Gong Yi's face turned dark, and he even wanted to strangle Huami to death. Inhale, exhale, exhale, inhale. Repeat 10 times. Why would he bother with a pregnant woman? What's more, the pregnant woman was carrying his child. Yes, it was because she was pregnant with his 2 daughters that Gong Yi couldn't help but get angry. He was worried about her, he was worried about his little princesses, so He didn't want the three of them to take any risks. It's human nature. It's human nature. Drive faster. Gong Yi urged the garrison to drive, his brows gloomy, hiding his overwhelming anger. In the Beast City Supply Depot, the reconnaissance garrison has reported back. There are hundreds of them, similar to the garrison at our supply depot. They may have intended a surprise attack at first, but some of them turned against us, and are now fighting among themselves. If the people inside hadn't turned against us, the target might not have been exposed so quickly. Tang Yu was organizing the garrison defense, and was stunned when he heard this. The firepower that came to carry out the surprise attack turned against them first. Is this to remind the supply depot in City B to be well defended? Those who betrayed us here will be saved. They are our own people. Tang Yu, come here. Here are PKMs and AK-47s. Use them to kill them. Huami shouted in the darkness of the supply warehouse in City B. Tang Yu immediately ran over with the garrison to take a look. Wow, 2 large piles of machine guns and rifles, with at least 300 in each pile. There were originally 200 to 300 garrisons in the B City Supply Depot, but because of the gun attack and robbery on the Hunan B Expressway, 200 garrisons in the B City Supply Depot were withdrawn to cooperate with Yang Honglin to guard the Hunan B Expressway. So now, there are less than 100 garrisons left inside and outside the supply warehouse in City B, led by Tang Yu. For a garrison of less than 100 people, each person has 3 machine guns and 3 rifles. It's too exaggerated. Tang Yu looked at Huami in surprise. Sister Hua, this is too much. I'm afraid we can't use it all. He didn't even ask where Sister Hua got the 300 PKMs and 300 AK-47s from. The boss said, don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask. Because they were garrisoned, what they learned was how to fight back. The other side has no more than 100 people in total, and they're still fighting among themselves. Tang Yu's side has 300 PKMs and 300 AK-47s per person, which is really too many. This is not counting what Sister Hua gave them last time. Each garrison member is equipped with an AK-47. It's okay, just keep shooting. I don't have extra bullets, so I'll give each of you a few extra guns. I'll find you guns after you're done shooting. Huami seemed very generous. If she could have won a few more boxes of bullets in the lottery, she wouldn't have to directly equip the garrisons with so many guns. Now the conditions are limited. To deal with a sudden attack of 100 people, Tang Yu's side already has heavy firepower. The price of heavy firepower is that each garrison carries 7 guns, which is a bit of a burden. When the vanguard rushed over, they ran into several garrisons in City A who were covered in blood. They were being chased by Chern Hu's men. On the one hand, they were stopping Chern Hu's men, and on the other hand, they were leading Chern Hu's men to run all over the mountains and plains. Just don't go to the supply warehouse in City B. Seeing Tang Yu coming, the garrison leader of City A was holding a baby in his arms wrapped in a baby bag. He breathed a sigh of relief. Brother, go save him. Our Captain Liu is in Chern Hu's hands. After saying this, he fell backwards and was caught by Tang Yu. Huami originally wanted to join the vanguard team, but Tang Yu received an order from Gong Yi and refused to let Sister Hua go. Gong Yi personally gave the order and arranged Huami in the logistics rescue team. The pregnant woman wanted to draw her gun? That was impossible. Even if Gong Yi chopped off his own head, he would never let Huami take his 2 daughters into the vanguard. So when Huami saw the garrison in City A, these garrisons in City A were almost dying. Tang Yu led the vanguard team to deal with the group of people who came for the raid. Huami also learned from the logistics team that the people who came for the raid were Chern Hu's men. Originally, Chern Hu planned to send garrisons to rob the material depot in City B, but the garrison in City A was called upon by Gong Yi, and only a few dozen people under Lu Xingyuan's command fled. Therefore, these dozens of garrisons were sent by Chern Hu in the name of the garrison commander of City A to rob the material depot in City B. At this time, Chern Hu was just skeptical about the loyalty of the garrison under Lu Xingyuan's command. He used the mission of robbing the material warehouse in City B to test Lu Xingyuan and others. If the mission of robbing the material warehouse in City B was successful, then Lu Xingyuan and dozens of other garrisons could continue to be used. On the contrary, It would not be a bad idea to let Lu Xingyuan and others die at the hands of Gong Yi. Originally, Lu Xingyuan thought that this was the end of it. Chunhu had his plans, and he had his plans too. Lu Xingyuan planned to send dozens of garrisons to the outside of the B City supply depot. After completing his surrender, he had no intention of robbing the B City supply depot. But before leaving, a secret order suddenly came from the A City garrison commander, asking Lu Xingyuan to take charge of other things. There were only a few garrisons and hundreds of Chunhu's followers who carried out the robbery mission again. From that moment on, Lu Xingyuan knew that his plan had to be changed. In order to protect the B City supply depot, Lu Xingyuan decided to take advantage of the situation. He asked the assigned garrisons to continue to carry out the mission of robbing the B City supply depot, but had them turn against him halfway to remind Tang Yu at the B City supply depot. Someone is coming to rob you. Defend yourself quickly. Lu Xingyuan led dozens of other garrisons to attack Chunhu. After listening to the logistics team's words, Huami lowered her head and rubbed her brows. This Lu Xingyuan is really stupid. It's obvious that Chunhu has already suspected him, but he still led dozens of garrisons to die. Why is that? A garrison in City A took out a bloody baby from his sling and said weakly, because Captain Lu wants to save our commander with the least sacrifice and weaken Chunhu's power for Commander Gong. This is garrison. In fact, there is no need to explain this plan in detail. As long as it is garrison, this will be the choice. After sacrificing dozens of Lu Xingyuan's garrisons, it became much easier for Gong Yi to deal with Chunhu. Huami looked at the few members of the rescue team stationed in front of her, and then looked at the baby in the arms of the garrison in City A opposite. The garrison in City A who were responsible for rebelling and alerting Tang Yu only had one bulletproof vest, and they didn't know where they got it from, so they used it to wrap the baby. Huami reached out to take the baby, and when she looked down, she found that the baby was fine. The blood on his little body came from the garrison in City A. Hold on, brother. The garrison in City B, who was in charge of medical care, was holding a medical kit and applying hemostatic gel to the garrison in City A who had been shot. However, the garrison in City A obviously could no longer hold on, and his vitality was rapidly fading. The medical garrison stuffed the bloody man with another painkiller. But there was no way. He was badly injured. The only reason he could hold on until now was because he wanted to get the baby in his arms to a safe place. Once he was sure the baby was safe, he used up all his life force. Huami looked at the garrison in City A who was being given emergency treatment but could not be saved. She sighed and hugged the baby boy who was crying loudly in her arms. She didn't know whose child this was and why the garrison was desperate to send this baby boy to the B City supply depot. She asked the medical garrison who was rescuing him, "How's it going?" The medical garrison in the B City supply depot shook his head. He has done his best, and so have we. He cannot be saved, no matter how miraculous Huami's medical supplies are. For a person whose vitality is almost gone, no matter how miraculous the medicine is, it will be useless. Huami's heart suddenly became heavy, and she suddenly remembered the hundreds of trillions of energy light balls in her level 17 storage. She knew before that this energy ball can be used by ordinary people. As long as ordinary people use the energy ball, they will not need to eat, drink, or sleep, and will still be full of energy. Then, can it be used on the dying garrison of City A? Huami said, holding a ball of energy light ball in her hand, holding the baby boy, and throwing it at the bloody garrison of City A.
Oh!
The A City garrison, who had only vented their anger, shouted. The surrounding medical personnel immediately came over, and someone hurriedly put a stethoscope on him. "Hurry, he seems to have some strength, hurry up." There was only a slight increase in breath, but it was still very weak. Huami thought about it, stood behind the medical garrison, and threw several energy light balls to the garrison in City A. The garrison of City A on the ground opened his energetic eyes on his bloody face. He struggled up from the ground. "I'm going to save Captain Lu. I can still do it." The surrounding medical garrisons were shocked. What kind of medical miracle was this? A person who was about to die could suddenly stand up, pick up weapons, and fight. Everyone reacted and rushed forward to hold his hands and feet. You can't move now.
Calm down.
The bullet in your body hasn't been taken out yet. Let me go. Let me go. I am full of strength now. I want to save our Captain Liu. I'm afraid their Captain Liu has already taken action by now. With dozens of garrisons, the chances of success in raiding Chun, whose villa complex, are slim. In the supply warehouse of City B, several medical garrisons worked together to stop the garrison officer from City A. They gave him an anesthetic injection, a medical item that was available in Huami's Level 17 warehouse. Only after giving the garrison in City A an anesthetic injection could he calm down and allow the medical garrison to remove the bullet for him. Huami was also shocked by the reaction of the garrison in City A. It turned out that giving a person too much energy light ball would increase a person's strength. It seems that the garrison in City A is much stronger than before, and it takes several people to hold them down. Then Huami held the child in her arms and turned to the remaining few garrisons from City A who were sent here. Relatively speaking, their injuries were slightly lighter than the previous one, and they were still struggling to survive. Huami did not hesitate and threw 5 energy light balls to each of the garrisons in City A. She didn't throw more, fearing that everyone's strength would surge and the medical garrison here would not be able to hold it back. The medical garrisons who were originally conducting intensive treatment suddenly discovered that the breathing of several of the A city garrisons under their command was noticeably heavier. They breathed a sigh of relief. Whether this person can survive and live well depends on whether there are enough medical supplies on the one hand, and on whether his will to survive is strong on the other. The will to survive needs to be supported by its own vitality. Immediately afterwards, before the medical garrison could think about it, Tang Yu and his team came back with 7 guns each. Faced with heavy firepower, the enemy only had a small pistol in their hands, which was really not enough. They were quickly shot down, and no one was left alive. Even Tang Yu himself did not expect it to end so quickly. He said to Huami urgently, "Sister Hua, the boss has already gone to City A. He probably won't come here. The most important thing for us now is to defend the supply depot in City B, Chun, who is expected to receive reinforcements. The battle has truly begun. Whether Gong Yi is willing or not, Chun, whose blatant attack on the material depot in City B, is a signal for him to start a war. What's more, Lu Xingyuan is now in Chun Hu's hands." Huami nodded seriously and asked, "Is there anything I can do?" "I can wield a machine gun as a suicide squad member." In her previous life, before she had stimulated her with related abilities, she joined the city suicide squad in order to earn a living to support herself and Fong Xian. A tide of zombies or mutant animals surrounds the city. In order to deal with these disgusting things, the city management will first send a management team out to investigate. The reward is very generous, and you are paid first, and then you dare to die. The first time, out of 100 people in the suicide squad, only Huami came back. She was so scared that she almost went insane. Later, in order to keep Fong Xian alive, she had to join the suicide squad many times. The suicide squad would replenish the number of people who died, and each time they went out, there were always 100 people. So, Huami saw the various ways that the members of the suicide squad died, and gained some ideas of her own on how to save her life. Later, some people began to survive, and like Huami, they formed several regular teammates of the suicide squad. Later, those who survived and often went out with Huami to risk their lives all developed superpowers, including herself. Ever since Huami activated her with type ability, she never did such dangerous things again. At that time, her and Fong Xian's lives in the base city gradually improved. So now it seems that Chun Hu's firepower is really not worth mentioning. If Huami could join the suicide squad, she could kill as many people as a mountain. However, her application was decisively rejected by Tang Yu. Tang Yu lowered his head and glanced at Huami's lower abdomen. "The boss told you to stay in the logistics team in City B and be responsible for rescuing people. He asked you to be the captain of the rescue team, so don't run around." Knowing that Huami was a restless person, Gong Yi did not force her to stay. He could not let her live the life of a housewife in Xiangqing like Qingjin. Gong Yi assigned Huami a task. Since she loved to make trouble, She just had to rescue people in the rear. Captain of the rescue team, you see how heavy the responsibility is for Huami. You can't just give up. So for Tang Yu, the boss is now handing over 3 lives, his sister-in-law and the baby in her belly, into Tang Yu's hands. If Huami goes to the suicide squad, she will step over his body. Tang Yu always does what he says. He would never let Sister Hua take any risks. Looking at the determined expression on Tang Yu's face, Sister Hua knew that she could not go to City A today. She held the baby boy in her arms and gave the baby a ball of energy light ball. The child then stopped crying and made a fuss. Now he was looking at Huami with his big dark eyes wide open. Huami sighed. Why are you so serious? I'm just talking. I quite like being the rescue captain. Then Huami asked Tang Yu again, speaking of which, if Chen Hu faced your boss, he would be defeated very quickly, right? How strong is he? Have you conducted a detailed investigation? In the previous life, when Huami got to know Chen Hu had already become a behemoth. His strength was developing very rapidly, and he had several private garrisons in addition to gangsters. They are all collected from various cities. Of course, there were also quite a few administrators who defected to Chen Hu. Those thugs do all kinds of vile things in various cities and bases, and no one cares. If something happens, the administrator will take care of it. If the administrator can't take care of it, the garrison will come forward to suppress it. Why would the administrators and garrisons help Chen Hu and be his backup? It was because the garrisons at that time were no longer the garrisons before the end of the world.
They are completely different concepts.
There's no way they are like Gong Yi and Yang Honglin now. They are the cutest people. They are a group of monsters disguised as garrisons, hated and despised by everyone. In Chen Hu's previous life, there were people like this who protected him in various cities and bases. Although Chen Hu is omnipotent in City A in this life, his power is far from as great as that in his previous life. Gong Yi now has garrisons in 3 cities, Xiangqing, City A, and City B, with a total of more than 5,000 people. With Huami's heavy firepower, if they fight Chen Hu, they should be able to kill him in the cradle, right? Chen Hu has 10,000 people. The one who spoke was a garrison from City A, who was lying on the ground and being treated. Seeing Tang Yu and Huami looking over, the Ace City garrison continued. This is just the number we know. There are 10,000 people. I don't know exactly how many people he has. Tang Yu frowned and asked, why are there so many people? My printer broke, and the handyman and me rolled up my sleeves and spent the whole morning fixing it. Now I plan to call the printer repair person and spend some money to have them come to my house to repair it. It is known that Chen Hu has 10,000 people on his side, which is twice as many as Gong Yi's side, where Boss Gong only has 5,000 garrisons. Moreover, Boss Gong didn't bring many people to City A. He left 3,000 garrison troops in Xiangqing to maintain order, and another 1,000-plus garrison troops were stationed in City B, Xiangbi Expressway, and City B's material depot. The garrison that Gong Yi brought to City A might be only 100 or 200 people. Huami's heart sank. She originally had some confidence in Gong Yi and felt that he would be able to nip Chen Hu in the bud this time. As a result, the difference between the two teams was so huge, 10,000 people versus 100 or 200 people. How could they fight? The garrison of City A on the ground continued. Chen Hu has an industrial park in City A, which has more than 30,000 workers. Since Chen Hu took control of the material warehouse in City A, he has selected 10,000 strong workers from these 30,000 people. Before Captain Liu decided to raid Chen Hu's villa complex, Chen Hu had already taken over the material warehouse and weapons depot in City E. So, it is not difficult to imagine that the rebellion of several thousand garrisons in City A was of no concern to Chen Hu, because Chen Hu has armed all the 10,000 strong laborers he has. Lovely people always develop slower than hateful people, because Gong Yi spends his time saving people, while Chen Hu spends his time plundering. Everyone says that Chen Hu is a conscientious entrepreneur. In fact, Chen Hu's industries have already involved all aspects of City B. He also owns a number of food processing factories. These food processing factories are located in the industrial park. He has great ambitions. He can obtain a large amount of supplies from his minions every day to support his team. The garrison in City A on the ground had obviously found out everything about Chunhu. In other words, in addition to the 10,000 armed forces in Chunhu's hands, he also has countless henchmen. Last time, it was Chunhu's henchmen who set up the roadblock on Hunan, the expressway. This is just one way for Chunhu to obtain supplies. Chunhu's tentacles are spread across all walks of life in the lower 9 classes. Even behind Feng Huai's gambling gang, there was Chunhu's shadow. The more chaotic the world is, the more opportunities there are for people like Chunhu to perform. Huami was vaguely worried about Gong Yi, and she didn't know whether Gong Yi could defeat Chunhu this time. She held the little baby boy in her arms and looked at Tang Yu. So we're just going to do nothing and just guard the B City supply depot here? This is not good. What if Gong Yi dies? Tang Yu was also worried, but his fixed mindset told him that without the commander's order, he couldn't go anywhere and didn't do anything. Now, guarding the supply warehouse in City B and protecting his sister-in-law are things he has to do with his life. Huami frowned and looked at Tang Yu. Well, she couldn't talk to Tang Yu. Huami carried the child and walked back to the depths of the material warehouse in City B, where no one could see her. She placed more than a dozen rolls of straw mats on the ground. These straw mats were woven by Yurong. They are dry, dense, and only 1 finger thick. They can be used as tatami or mattresses without any incongruity. Huami placed the baby boy sent by the A City garrison on the dry tatami and then went to the B City supply warehouse and put a bathtub, a bunch of large barrels of mineral water, ethanol, painkillers, sterile gauze, hemostatic gel, goggles, condoms, resin gloves, and protective clothing. After everything was ready, Huami found a medical garrison and asked them to boil some hot water to clean up the child and the A City garrisons on the ground. The straw mats and mattresses were laid out and covered with cloth, and a temporary medical point was set up in a short time. While everyone was busy, Huami went to a dark corner of the B City supply warehouse and piled up AK-47X-10,000 and PKMX-10,000. She was afraid that Gong Yi's firepower was not enough, so she called Tang Yu over and pointed at the 2 piles of guns behind her. I know you have a way to contact your boss. Send these 2 piles of guns to your boss. There are 10,000 AK-47s and 10,000 PKMs. Let your boss split them. Tang Yu raised his head exaggeratedly and swallowed hard. Well, Sister Hua, I have verified that the boss only brought 100 people. It may be a bit difficult for one person to carry 201 guns to fight. Hearing this, Huami became worried. Alas, there are only 201 guns for one person, which is too few. A box of bullets actually doesn't have that much. If they encounter a tide of zombies or densely packed mutant animals, a box of bullets will be used up in a flash. They are completely defenseless. She waved her hands and said passionately, "You should establish a complete firepower supply chain so that when everyone runs out of firepower, they can have a seamless connection and get weapons at their fingertips. If someone is fighting on the front line, there must be someone holding the knife behind him. How about this? Since you are so busy, I will go and deliver a gun to your boss, and you tell me the location of your boss." Now Gong Yi has no time to reply her message, and even if she calls Gong Yi, he won't answer. Gong Yi has muted his phone. So, Huami couldn't contact Gong Yi at all, and probably only Tang Yu knew where Gong Yi was now. Tang Yu stretched his legs and stood upright in front of Huami. His lips were like a clam shell, and he didn't say a word. He silently rejected Sister Hua's proposal with this gesture. As I said, if Sister Hua wants to go to the front line, she has to step over Tang Yu's body. Huami waved her hand and was about to speak when a garrison suddenly came running behind Tang Yu. "Captain Tang, a team is approaching us. They are coming from the back of the supply warehouse and look like ordinary survivors." Each garrison has a pair of goggles, produced by Huami's Level 15 factory. These goggles not only allow the garrison to see the distant scenery clearly in rainy and foggy weather, but also allow them to see at night. So they saw clearly that among the people coming to the supply warehouse in City B, those carrying large and small bags and dragging children with them were ordinary survivors. Ordinary survivor. How did you get here? Huami and Tang Yu both felt that something was not normal. Because the material warehouse in City B is not near the national road or expressway. Although the national highways and expressways are almost in disrepair now, the survivors still set out from a certain city to visit Xiangqing or City B. In order to avoid getting lost, they would choose to walk on the original national road or highway. There are also many survivors who, by chance, run to the supply depot in City B, but they will be stopped by guards a few hundred meters away and pointed in the right direction. There wouldn't be such a large number of survivors, it would be like they had navigation and were heading here accurately. How many survivors are there?
Tang Yu asked.
It's hard to count. It's a large area. There are at least 2,000 people. The garrison who came to report frowned. As garrison officers, it was absolutely impossible for them to massacre civilians. But there were 2,000 survivors, and the garrison at the supply depot in City B had less than 100 soldiers, so they could not be stopped at all. Let me tell you a story today. Once upon a time, there were Xiao Bao and Xiao Zi who were forced to do business. They were going to perform on the streets to beg for tickets from a big devil named Bao Baozi. Xiao Bao. Haha, we are back again, Xiao Zi. Today we're going to perform swallowing iron swords alive and crushing rocks with chests. Please give votes to Bao Baozi. Reader. We've seen it last time. We want to see something new. Xiao Zi. Okay, as long as readers are willing to vote, we will perform an acrobatic show for you today, jumping through a ring of fire. Xiao Bao, I'll drill Emma, where's my hair? From then on, Xiao Bao became bald. Huami looked at Tang Yu in silence. She and Tang Yu both felt that it was unusual for these 2,000 survivors to come to the supply depot in City B. Sure enough, soon there were garrisons, and with blood on their heads, they ran into the supply warehouse in City B. Captain Tang, we went up to persuade them to change their route, but they didn't listen at all. It is obvious that this group of ordinary survivors were instigated, otherwise they would not have attacked the garrison. There are 2,000 survivors. Every punch from them is too much for the mortal garrisons to bear, not to mention that they can't fight back. Huami immediately called for medical help to bandage the bleeding head of the garrison. Before she could ask Tang Yu what to do next, she heard a noise outside the B City supply warehouse. Tang Yu immediately ran out to check, and Huami followed behind. All we could see was the human wall formed by the garrison troops at the entrance of the supply warehouse, which was constantly retreating, and they had nowhere to retreat. And in front of them was a group of survivors with their children. The survivors screamed at the top of their lungs. Get out of the way, we just want food, give us food. You can't monopolize so many supplies, these belong to us. Give us food quickly. The sounds that came one after another made Huami feel familiar. In the previous life, weren't there many cases of survivors gathering to cause trouble because they were hungry? The only difference was that in the previous life, the forces that were besieged and demanding supplies would directly shoot at the survivors. Tang Yu won't shoot, and neither will any of the garrisons here. So they could only use human flesh to form a defensive line and were forced to retreat under the pressure of the survivors who were surrounding them. One of the survivors took out a stone and threw it at the garrison ahead, cursing, "You rascals who are doing nothing but sitting on your job. You are hoarding the supplies and not giving us any food. You are watching us starve to death. You have no conscience at all." In that group of survivors, there were children crying, old people coughing, women screaming, and men cursing at the human wall garrisons who were silently guarding the door of the supply warehouse. Some of the garrisons had their heads smashed and were bleeding. Tang Yu held a loudspeaker in his hand and shouted to the survivors outside, "These supplies are not for you to eat, but for the survivors in Xiangqing and a city. Go forward. There are also many mobile vendors on this Xiangbi highway. They sell supplies. There should be a rule for everything." The materials in the B City Material Warehouse are just a transit warehouse for Huami. It is impossible for her to set up a stall by herself, nor is it possible for her to sell goods to various material sales points day after day. The project is too huge. It's not so difficult to find in Xiangqing, as there is only one RV supermarket selling the goods. But now, the RV supermarket has become a wholesale supermarket. Many vendors in Xiangqing will queue up overnight to wholesale supplies from the RV supermarket and then set up small stalls in and outside Xiangqing. There was originally only one selling point in City B, right at the city gate, and it was run by Ikegawa's small group of speculators. But now, the city gate of City B has also become a supplies wholesale point. The survivors will queue up overnight to wholesale supplies and then set up stalls on the Hunan-B Expressway. The Xiangqing Underground Garage and the B City Material Warehouse are responsible for replenishing supplies to these two wholesale points. Because these two transit warehouses are large enough, Huami can store supplies there for several days. The garrison only needs to focus on guarding these two transit warehouses. No matter how many warehouses there will not be enough staff for the garrison, and Huami will be too busy to handle it, let alone there will be no teleportation points. So as long as the survivors get on the Hunan-B Expressway and take the money to buy supplies, they can get them. Why not walk a few more steps? We have already come here, and if we walk a little further, we will see the mobile vendors. The prices of supplies sold by these mobile vendors are slightly more expensive than those in the RV supermarket and the wholesale point at the gate of City B. Moreover, the prices of goods sold by small vendors are not uniform. The farther away from Xiangqing and City B, the more expensive the goods sold by mobile vendors are. After all, they are like ants moving house, carrying the supplies such a long distance, so they have to pay some labor fee. Huami stood behind Tang Yu and saw a man hiding behind an old man among the survivors on the opposite side, shouting, "Why should we walk such a long distance and spend money to buy supplies? You sound so nice, but the supplies in your warehouse must be reserved for the superiors. We won't get a penny." His words were full of instigation. Amid this instigation, the survivors, who were already suffering from hunger and cold, began to burn with rage. The situation was getting out of control. Huami grabbed the loudspeaker from Tang Yu's hand and shouted, "Don't worry, there are a lot of supplies, but look, the elderly and children among you are almost unable to hold on. Now, the elderly and children, come to the front, and we will give you supplies." Faced with the excitement of the crowd, divide them first. A man on the other side immediately shouted, "Why should we distribute supplies to the elderly and children first? We are all together. Why? Don't listen to her. It's all a conspiracy. These people who are just sitting there doing nothing are always up to some conspiracy. Yes, maybe the food she gave was poisoned." Several men shouted loudly in the crowd, full of conspiracy theories. Huami took down the loudspeaker and asked Tang Yu beside her, "Did you see clearly who the men who were shouting were? We have locked onto several targets." Tang Yu was wearing goggles on his face, so he could see more clearly than the other survivors. Moreover, the garrison had received professional reconnaissance training, and they immediately found the man who instigated the incident amid the chaos. The men who instigated the survivors had stones in their hands. They sandwiched themselves among the survivors and threw stones at the garrison. For what purpose? These men instigated the survivors to surround the material depot in City B and continued to attack the garrison with stones. Huami said in a low voice, "You take care of the men who instigated the survivors, and I'll take care of the rest." As soon as the voice fell, Huami did not wait for Tang Yu to object, and immediately raised the loudspeaker and shouted, "An old man, holding a child, come over here to line up. Come, line up. As long as you line up, you can eat oranges, apples, grapefruits, and cherries. Don't listen to her. She's lying." A man was shouting behind the two children, swinging a stone in his hand, trying to hit Huami. If Huami isn't dealt with, there won't be any chaos here today. However, the stone he threw was hit by a bullet, and with a bang, the stone broke into pieces in midair. There are snipers stationed nearby, and they have already set up an ambush. Their sights were aimed at the men among the survivors who were instigating riot. During the noisy confrontation, the medical garrison behind Huami came to help. They pushed out carts from the warehouse in City B, on which were piled bottles of orange juice. There was an immediate commotion among the survivors on the opposite side. Old people began to come out, leading their children. However, it was blocked by a strong man. The man had dyed yellow hair and a fierce look on his face. "Where are you going? We are all together. How can you be divided so easily? Go back." It took them quite a bit of effort to gather these survivors, and they specifically chose to persuade the survivors, who included the elderly and children. They told these families with elderly people and children that there was a supply depot just ahead, but it was occupied by the garrison and was not distributed to them, the survivors of the disaster. As long as everyone works together and unites as one, we can force the garrison to hand over the supply depot. When the garrison is driven away, the entire huge supply depot will be theirs. Such words are extremely inflammatory, especially for those who are struggling to walk in the rain, dragging their families with them, including the elderly and children. They were already starving, and hunger left them no time to think about anything. They could only follow the instigators to the supply depot in City B. What is the purpose? The purpose is to have a bite to eat. Yes, the purpose is to have a bite to eat. The old man who was stopped held his grandson tightly in his hand and said to the instigator who was blocking him, "Please move aside. My grandson is so thirsty that he wants to drink this weird rainwater. Don't you see there is orange juice over there? This strange rain falls on the ground, and after a while, it will become solidified like jelly and will not flow at all. I don't know if it will cause any serious problems if I eat it. So anyone with a brain knows that you shouldn't drink this jelly water. Don't drink it. Don't drink it." But I was extremely hungry and had nothing else to eat except drinking the jelly water. Fortunately, I was drinking jelly water all the way here and didn't see anyone being poisoned to death. Now the old people and children who are extremely thirsty are facing the rows of orange juice, and no one can stop them from rushing to drink the orange juice. What's more, the reason they came here was just for a bite to eat. Seeing that he could not stop the old man from taking the child away from the 2,000 survivors, the man who instigated them showed a ferocious look on his face and directly pulled out a knife. A terrified sound came from the survivors. Huami watched coldly. This is human nature. No one would be afraid of a garrison with a gun, but a gangster with a knife would be terrifying. It's just bullying the good and fearing the evil, because everyone knows that the garrison will not harm civilians, even if the garrison has guns.
Go back.
He instigated the criminal to point a knife at the old man in front of him and forced the old man to take his child and return to the team of 2,000 people. The old man was also scared and was handing a shiny small fruit knife towards her. The child in her arms, however, shook off her grandmother's hand and said, "No, I want to drink orange juice." The child ran towards Huami as soon as he could. He didn't want to listen to the man with the knife. When the earthquake hit, he and his father, mother, grandfather, and grandmother were all buried in the rubble. It was their city's garrison rescue team that dug their entire family out of the rubble. Although his father, mother, and grandfather had all gone far away, he knew that the garrison was full of good people. Despite his young age, he felt very familiar with the uniforms worn by the garrisons. Those bad uncles hit the garrison with stones, and he didn't want to play with those bad uncles. The child ran away, and the man with the knife cursed Nyang Shipi and turned around, stabbing the child in the back with a knife.
Ah!
Seeing this, the old man shouted in fear.
Ah!
The survivors also shouted in fear when they saw this. Just as the knife in the instigator's hand was about to pierce the child's back, a bullet shot out and hit the man's temple. The bullet went through his brain, blood splattered, and the shell fell to the ground. The instigator stood there, and before he could react, he saw the child running in front of Huami. He fell to the ground, and his last thought was that he was careless and shouldn't have been so sure that the garrison would not shoot. The first bird to stick its head out gets shot, and he became the first one to be killed by the garrison. Who else? The survivors, who were originally noisy and aggressive, suddenly became quiet. It was like a frozen computer. I didn't even dare to move. The garrison was silent, and the survivors were also silent. There is actually nothing much to say about this. Everyone saw clearly what happened just now. If the garrison had not opened fire, the little boy would have been killed by the man with the knife. Therefore, no one can blame the garrison for this matter. We should also thank the garrison for saving a child. The child's grandmother, still frightened, followed the boy and ran to Huami. During the stalemate between the two sides, Huami looked down at the little boy with sparkling eyes and handed him a bottle of orange juice. Looking at the old man behind the boy, Huami asked, "My orange juice is not for nothing."
Ah,
The old man didn't react. Didn't he say that he could get the supplies for free when he came? Under the old man's puzzled gaze, Huami pushed out a cart from behind, on which was a pile of straw mats. "You drank my juice. How about you help me weave a straw rope?" Straw rope is now a consumable item, because it is used to bundle supplies, bundle up piles of supplies, and transport them to other places. The rope woven from straw is quite tough and easy to weave. Even a child can learn it quickly. The main thing is that Huami has a lot of straw, and she never gives supplies to others for free. Huami is not that kind-hearted. If you eat and use her supplies, you have to provide her with some value, and children are no exception. Huami said to the child who was holding orange juice in front of her, "Child, I'll give you another bun. How about you help me take care of the baby?" The baby boy that the garrison in City A had risked their lives to send there was lying on a straw mat in the supply warehouse, babbling something inaudible. The adults are all busy and have no time to accompany him. So, Huami plans to find someone to take care of the child. The little boy holding the orange juice nodded obediently and looked back at his grandmother. Grandma was also starving, so she agreed to Huami's request without hesitation. "Besides weaving straw ropes, I can also weave other things such as fans, straw baskets, carpets, and straw boxes. Almost all of us older people can make these small things. An old person in the family is like a treasure." "That's true. Farewell, my printer. I bought another one because at the printing shop downstairs, it costs $1 to print one side and 30 cents to print 20 sides. As someone with severe anxiety, I often have to print things to relieve stress." Huami looked at the old man in front of her, smiled, and moved aside, allowing the medical guard behind her to push out the cart filled with straw mats. Then, Huami said to the medical garrison, "You guys go and do your work. I'll find someone else to help with the chores." There are less than 100 garrison personnel at the material depot in City B, including only 4 medical personnel. Yes, that's right. Gong Yi also appointed Huami as the captain of the garrison medical team, leading a team of 4 people. But in fact, these 4 people not only have to take care of the wounded garrison soldiers from City A, but also have to take care of the garrison meals in the material warehouse of City B, and some other miscellaneous things. So they were simply too busy to handle it. When Huami wanted to ask someone to help push the cart, she could only ask for medical help. Due to limited manpower, Tang Yu and the 90-odd garrisons had been eating oranges and instant noodles. These instant noodles were stockpiled by Huami before. At that time, she only needed to meet the minimum survival needs. She felt that in the extreme survival situation, it was good to have something to eat. Most of the survivors can't even afford instant noodles. But later, as her golden fingers became thicker and thicker, she could produce more and more things. To be honest, instant noodles are a bit lackluster. So Huami put all the instant noodles in her level 17 warehouse into the B City supply warehouse, preparing to have Chi Chuan take them out and sell them. As a result, in order to save time, Tang Yu and his friends have been eating instant noodles during this period. These garrisons are too cruel to my stomach. So, when the second old man came to Huami with his child, Huami didn't want the old man to weave straw mats anymore. She asked, "Can you cook?" This is actually nonsense. How can there be an elderly person who doesn't know how to cook? The old man seems to be able to do everything except having no strength. After seeing the old man nod, Huami turned and walked towards the supply warehouse. After a while, she pushed out a cart of rice and side dishes. "I'll find a few more elderly people later, and you can help cook a meal for our garrison. Of course, you can eat with the garrison. You who help with the work will eat the same thing as the garrison eats. There is rice, side dishes, and orange juice. Now you only need to work hard to get these things for free. What more can you ask for?" More and more elderly people stood up in the 2,000 survivors on the other side. Some young people were whispering and relaxed their expressions. They winked at their elders, suggesting that they should take their children to Huami to collect supplies. For them, contributing a little labor means receiving supplies for free. because most of the cash they had was ruthlessly snatched away by the group of men who instigated them to come here. So they had no money. This was also a major reason why they came here obediently and forced the garrison to hand over the material depot in City B. All the cash on him was stolen. In fact, even if he walked to the Hunanbi Expressway, he couldn't buy supplies at the stalls. It would be better to take a risk. But now you don't need to pay cash, you just need to help cook and take care of the children, and you can have something to eat, so why do you still have to bleed and fight to the death with the garrison? More and more elderly people, holding their children in their hands, walked towards Huami gradually. They formed a line in front of Huami. And those instigators mixed in the crowd were impatient. They kept persuading people to leave. She must be deceiving you. She is using some food to trick you over now. Once our team falls apart, she will starve you to death. Don't go over there. Let's rush down this B City supply warehouse. All the supplies inside will be ours. It's enough for us to eat for a long time. Don't be silly. Which one is more cost-effective, this bite of food now, or the endless food after rushing down to the supply warehouse? You've seen it too. The garrison killed people without blinking an eye. They were able to kill our people without blinking an eye. Sooner or later, they will be able to kill you too. That being said, these instigators only dared to mingle among the survivors and say such things in a low voice. Now no one dares to be the first to take action, for fear that if they do, they will be shot to death by the garrison. They adhered to the rules of the garrison strictly. As long as they did not stand out to harm the weak and mixed in the crowd to incite civilians to cause trouble, the garrison could do nothing to them. Huami has recruited 10 old ladies to cook, 20 old men to pick up trash, and 30 children to help move supplies. The children who cannot carry the supplies have to help look after the younger ones, and there are even children who cannot walk. Anyway, everyone has to work, and children are no exception. In fact, the children can't carry much supplies at one time. But there were many children and they ran fast, so they carried the supplies from the warehouse to the outside, just like ants moving house, carrying a little bit at a time without much effort. Huami picked out 2 of the next elderly people who came and began to register their names and distribute supplies. As long as the elderly people come to queue and don't cause trouble, Huami will give them supplies and arrange work for them. The next person who came later, Huami, sent those old men away and went into the mountain near the supply warehouse to look for things that could be used to set up a stall. Successfully separated a large number of elderly people and children from the group of survivors. Huami walked to Tang Yu's side, frowned and asked, "Have you found all those who instigated this?" Tang Yu frowned as he stood at the door of the Beast City supply depot. In the dark sky, there was a large group of people blocking the way ahead. "We have checked them all out. If they dare to make a move, our snipers will open fire." It was indeed as the other party said. As long as they did not step out to harm the weak and mixed in with the crowd, the garrison would not take the initiative to shoot them. Huami couldn't help but frown when she heard what Tang Yu said. The occupational restrictions of garrison were really troublesome at this time. They will not take the initiative. Even if they know that the other party is a bad guy, they will have to wait for the other party to make the first move before they can passively counterattack. Huami's eyes turned, and she immediately thought of a good idea and said to Tang Yu, "I don't think they will do anything weird for a while. I'll go around the area." After saying that, Huami turned around and left without waiting for Tang Yu to stop her. Wearing a raincoat and holding an umbrella, she walked outside the supply warehouse and greeted a group of elderly people who were cooking in the shed. Then a man walked out of the shed, intending to take a walk towards the national highway, following the group of survivors who were blocking the warehouse. From the very beginning, her whereabouts were watched by many people with ulterior motives. After all, when they came to the outside of the B City supply warehouse and tried to force the garrison to hand over the B City supply warehouse, Huami stood on the side of the garrison. She must be a very important person in the garrison. The leader of the garrison seemed very respectful to Huami. Tang Yu stood at the gate of the material warehouse in City B, his eyes moving back and forth between Huami's back and the faces of several men in the crowd opposite. His eyes suddenly became sharp, and the men moved. Thanks to the goggles on his face, He could clearly see the micro-expressions on the faces of everyone on the opposite side in such a dim sky. Those men were really the instigators of the sniper's targeting. Now they were in the crowd, moving in the direction Huami left. Tang Yu pressed the wireless intercom next to his ear. "Sniper, be careful. Don't lose sight of the target. Protect Sister Hua. The garrisons are not vegetarians. When the rules allow, they shoot faster than anyone else." At this time, Sister Hua had already walked to the side of the road, following a large group of survivors. As she walked, she observed the terrain in the dark. A narrow, bumpy dirt road connects the material warehouse in City B and the highway. The muddy road was full of survivors who had come to fight. In the rainy night, everyone looked very miserable. Previously, 2 mudslides buried the material warehouse in City B, and the mud has not been completely cleared until now. Therefore, the large trucks of the material transport team that Yang Honglin replaced Chi Chuan in can only go along the narrow mud road, one vehicle at a time, and arrive in front of the material warehouse in City B. There isn't even a convenient place to reverse. The current muddy road was dug out bit by Tang Yu and his team using engineering shovels during their free time. Huami went all the way to the highway, and while on the way, she started producing engineer shovels. Engineer Shovel X2000. Because of the production of engineer shovels, Huami's level 15 factory energy bar began to be consumed and no longer accumulated energy light. Unlock the 10th level of the garbage recycling station and get the sweeping robot X9 when a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X6. Congratulations. You have reached the maximum level of the garbage recycling station. Please select Recycling Station Small Cancel. What does this mean? How come the garbage bin is maxed out one moment and a new option appears the next? Huami was a little confused, but this thing wouldn't do her any harm anyway, so she bravely clicked on garbage bin small. There was a crazy burst of flower scattering, horn blowing, firecracker setting, and applause. Unlock the small garbage recycling station level 1, get a sweeping robot X1, a trash can X1 when a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X7. Huami is a little emo. She finally upgraded something to the maximum level, which gave her a sense of accomplishment, but now it has to be remade? This small garbage recycling station and garbage recycling station is that the word small is added in front. Didn't she get any rewards? As Huami walked, she took out the sweeping robot that was upgraded to a small garbage recycling station from her raincoat. What's the difference between this and the previous robot vacuum cleaner? She looked at the trash can that was given to her as a reward in her level 17 storage. It is just a trash can, just like an ordinary household trash can. It's still that tacky color, with some golden patterns painted on the outside of the black plastic shell. It gives people a cheap and tycoon-like feeling. Huami left the trash can in the level 17 warehouse and looked forward again. Now she had walked to the road. Going further, there were no more survivors. The more than 2,000 survivors were all stuck on the muddy road and at the entrance of the supply warehouse in City B. Of course, this place is also far away from the site of Tang Yu and other garrisons.
Hey.
Beautiful. A man with a mouth full of yellow teeth suddenly appeared in front of Huami in the dark, rainy day, blocking her way. She stood in front of the man. Her fair cheeks were rosy with a healthy complexion, and her pair of fox eyes were shining brightly under the goggles. Huami also greeted the other party. "Hi, ugly ghost." Before she could finish her words, 2 men came up from behind her. The yellow-toothed man's face turned serious, and he said angrily, "Beauty, it's so late. What are you going to do? Do you want us to accompany you?" Huami wanted to bypass the yellow-toothed man. She smiled. "No need. I'm going to go for a walk on the road and get some fresh air. Kill a few people by the way."
Breathe.
"If you can breathe, we can accompany you." The man with yellow teeth spoke in a scoundrelly manner and stretched out his hand to get his hands on Huami. She dodged the other person's hand and said, "Don't touch me, or you will suffer the consequences." "Hey, why are you still being so reserved?" The man standing behind Huami couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh. "I'm not saying you look good. Are you a garrison bus?" How else to explain? Among so many garrisons, there is only one woman, Huami. TSK. These garrisons really know how to have fun. I didn't expect them to do this kind of thing. These words made Huami feel angry, real anger. She turned around suddenly and slapped the man behind her in the face. The man with the foul mouth was hit so hard that he staggered. People have dirty thoughts, so they think everyone in this world is dirty. So, with your kind of people, you dare to run in front of the garrison and have fun? Originally, Huami didn't want to get angry. She just came to kill some trash. So she killed them. Not for a better world. However, she didn't expect that these garbage would insult her relationship with the garrison. The level of disgust made Huami emotionally agitated. Seeing this, the yellow-toothed man cursed, "You which have a bad temper. We are not a garrison, and will not indulge you." As he said this, he was about to step forward and slap Huami a few times. He wants to let the witch know what fear is. In this world, wherever they go, they are feared by others. She is just a woman. Who will care about them if she kills Jay? At this time, many men came out from the survivors. They only dared to follow after they saw Huami alone and far away from the garrison team. Someone advised the yellow-toothed man, "Don't make too much noise. This witch is still useful. Maybe we can take Huami a little further away so that we can have a taste of her first and then use her to negotiate terms with the garrisons in the supply warehouse in City B. I just don't know whether this witch is useful to the garrison and how much supplies the garrison can give to this witch. But even if the materials sold were not much, they should have made a profit. After all, Huami looks good." Huami turned around and smiled happily at the yellow-toothed man. "So, I urge you to be kind." The man with yellow teeth didn't understand what he said. He held Huami's slender arm with one hand and had a lewd smile on his face. A man with yellow teeth fell to the ground, and the instigators around him were all shocked. They didn't expect that there would be garrisons even though they were so far away from the Beast City Supply Depot. It seems that there are a lot of garrisons at this Beast City Supply Depot. Do you know why? Huami smiled and turned around, looking at the foul-mouthed man who stood up from the ground, because when you were instigating those ordinary survivors in the crowd, you were already targeted by the garrison. The reason why they didn't kill you is because the professional attributes of the garrison are too noble. He is so noble that he won't do anything like striking first. So in the previous life, the garrisons died very quickly, and within a few years, the garrison blood in all cities was replaced. In this world of apocalypse, noble people always die, especially quickly. Huami didn't have the ability to take care of these things in her previous life, but now that she has seen it in this life, and she has a particularly good relationship with the garrisons under Gong Yi, of course, she can't just stand by and watch those garrisons being bullied. Taking advantage of other people's professional attributes, he desperately jumped up and down. Huami would kill anyone who did this kind of thing if he saw one in his life. The foul-mouthed man stepped back, cursing unwillingly. "You stinky witch. It's all because of you. Do you know who we are?" Huami, who was walking forward, stopped and said, "Right. How can a small fry like you have the ability to stir up such a big storm?" "So who do you belong to?" She had a vague answer in her mind, but she still planned to listen to what the person on the other side had to say. "Our boss is Chen Hu. Do you know Chen Hu? He is a man who can cover the sky with one hand in City A. How dare you kill our people?" The foul-mouthed man thought Huami was scared, so he stood up straight and shouted at her fiercely, "You're dead. All of you are dead. Our boss will never tolerate any injustice." Huami nodded. "It's pretty much what I thought." Chen Hu sent people to seize the material warehouse in City B by force but failed, and then he did this. It seemed that he had planned this plundering for a long time. She asked the foul-mouthed man again, "But there is one thing that I am very confused about. You have almost 2,000 old, weak women and children to deal with the garrison in the Beast City Supply Depot. After you take over the Beast City Supply Depot, what are you going to do with these 2,000 ordinary survivors? How can we solve this problem? Of course, we can kill him. If they didn't kill them, would they still distribute the supplies to the 2,000 survivors?" The foul-mouthed man didn't say this out loud. Of course, he wasn't that stupid. Wouldn't it be courting death if he said it out loud? But he didn't say it. Just by looking at the fierce look in his eyes, Huami had already guessed the fate of these 2,000 ordinary survivors. She sneered and took out a machete from her raincoat. "You're really looking for death." In order to prevent ordinary survivors from being instigated in the future, Huami decided to do some good deeds. However, before she moved, several men around her turned around and ran towards the highway. They saw that things were going badly, and there were no ordinary survivors around them to provide cover. If the hidden sniper wanted to kill them, it would be easy. There were also a few men who looked at each other and suddenly rushed towards Huami. It was obvious that they were now being targeted by the station snipers, and they couldn't escape at this time. It would be better to give it a try and kidnap that witch Huami. This way there is still a way out. Maybe they can use Huami as a bargaining chip to continue negotiating terms with the garrison and ask the garrison to give them supplies. Huami's machete, which was originally aimed at the foul-mouthed man's head, was blocked by a man, and the other two men pounced on her from the left and right. These three people originally wanted to attack Huami from both sides. The sniper fired 3 shots in succession, switching targets extremely quickly. They are professionally trained, and their one-shot killing skills are much more sophisticated than those of amateurs like that foul-mouthed guy. Huami ignored the corpse on the ground and swung the second knife, directly chopping off the foul-mouthed man's head. She turned around and chased after Chunhu's men who were running onto the highway. "Now that you are here, don't leave." The sniper in the dark watched Sister Hua chop people, one by one, and a head rolled off with each cut. He didn't know whether he should stop Sister Hua. "Stop it. Those people killed by Sister Hua were not good people. They deserve to die. If we don't stop them..." Sister Hua is a pregnant woman, but she behaves even more bravely than the garrisons. It's quite magical. The sniper reported what happened here to Tang Yu and asked for his instructions. Tang Yu was shocked. He couldn't imagine how Sister Hua could slash people with a knife when she was pregnant. He immediately pressed the intercom and said angrily, "When did we let a pregnant woman stand up for us? Sister Hua is pregnant. If something goes wrong, will I be able to face Sister Hua? Will I be able to face the boss? Send more people. Hurry up and rescue Sister Hua. No matter whether the baby in Sister Hua's belly is the eldest or not, I just want to thank Sister Hua for being so kind to the garrison." No one should have just watched Sister Hua fighting desperately in the front, while the garrison officers lowered their heads and hid behind Sister Hua. Otherwise, how could they have the face to call a garrison? The sniper might feel that he didn't make his words clear enough. He felt that Sister Hua didn't need anyone to save her, because Sister Hua has already killed everyone. At the moment he reported to his superior Tang Yu, no one was left alive. But he still obediently put away his sniper rifle and hurriedly ran in the direction of Huami. However, before he could run to Sister Hua, all the bodies on the ground had disappeared. Sister Hua. The young sniper looked at Huami in astonishment. Huami looked like she had just finished cleaning. "Let's go back and see if there are any fish that have slipped through the net." She smiled, as if the air had become fresher, and led the young sniper, who was full of doubts, back to the supply warehouse in City B under Tang Yu's gaze. Tang Yu looked Huami up and down, fearing that Huami might be injured or have hurt her fetus or something. He wanted to ask but was too embarrassed to do so. Tang Yu is a straightforward and tough guy who has never even had a dream lover. He is even more ignorant than Gong Yi. Finally, regarding Sister Hua's hacking incident, Tang Yu could only casually say, "Sister Hua, don't go fishing next time." It was too dangerous for a pregnant woman to go fishing herself. Huami blinked her bright fox eyes and asked innocently, "What? There are no fish here. I just went out for a walk. I didn't expect to meet so many bad guys." Really, she was just out for a stroll. Look at her sincere big eyes. What fishing? Huami didn't understand. Looking at Huami, who had a pure and innocent face, Tang Yu opened his mouth. He actually began to doubt whether he really misunderstood Sister Hua. In fact, Sister Hua really just went out for a stroll. That's it. The matter was so confusing that Tang Yu let it go. Huami wandered around the supply warehouse in City B alone. After replenishing the supplies, she took out her cell phone and was about to call the contractor.
Turn on security scan.
Completion of Security and Defense Works Defense Project. Established Xiangqing. Watchtower Teleport Point Rating. Excellent protection. Project 11 square meters of black land were obtained. Please select a site for the black land. When a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X8, the teleport point has been repaired. Huami nodded with satisfaction, turned around and called Tang Yu, and gave Tang Yu Xiangqing. Watchtower teleportation ticket X 10,000. Tang Yu looked at the large stack of bills in his hand, not knowing what they were used for. He looked at Huami with doubtful eyes. Sister Hua, this is for emergency use. You can divide it up. Each garrison will get about 100 of them. The instructions for use are on the back. Huami didn't explain much, and of course, Tang Yu didn't habitually ask too many questions. Since Sister Hua said that they were for use in emergencies, he would give 100 cards to each garrison. There is no need to have too many questions when garrisoning, just follow orders. Xiangqing, Watchtower to Tang Yu. Huami stood at the door of the B City Material Warehouse, looked around, took out the trash can from the level 17 warehouse, and placed it next to the door. What are trash cans used for? Of course, they're used to hold trash. What else? Huami didn't pay attention to the trash can. She just took out her phone and called the contractor as planned. You don't have anything to do today. Come to the B City Material Depot. There are 2,000 laborers here. You can arrange for them to set up tents for themselves so they have a place to live first. Then you should plan carefully and build a factory outside the material warehouse in City B. I plan to build a weaving factory here. There was so much mat grass in her level 17 warehouse that as time went by, the harvest of these mat grasses was the same as that of oranges, but the mat grass matured in a shorter time than oranges. An orange tree that has lost its growth speed effect will take 2-3 days to mature a huge batch of oranges. But a huge amount of mat grass can mature within 24 hours. In comparison, within 2 days, Huami's level 17 storage was filled with straw mats. Much more than oranges. Huami was ignorant before. It was only from Yi Rong that she learned that straw mats had such important effects. The industrial chain in the apocalypse is completely destroyed, and many modern commodities can no longer be produced. It was like this in the previous life, and the survivors did not create any production chains. Those who survived, including the second generation of Xing, have been living off their savings. This will not last more than 3 generations, and the survivors will be starving and unable to get enough food. So from this perspective, if Huami builds a factory and establishes some production lines for straw sandals, straw hats, and straw clothes, maybe they can sell for a lot of money in the future? Of course, the question of whether they can sell for a lot of money is not something we need to consider right now. What we need to consider now is how to resettle these 2,000 survivors. They wanted supplies, and Huami didn't want to feed them for nothing, so she wanted them to create value for her. It's that simple. The contractor responded repeatedly and said to Hu Jing, who was urging the workers to expand the RV supermarket warehouse, Miss Hu has found another job for us. This time we are going to the material warehouse in City B and organizing 2,000 people to build a factory. 2,000 people? Hu Jing turned back in surprise. Has our current infrastructure team expanded to this size? Relative of his was actually only leading a small engineering team of 200 or 300 people before the disaster struck. Usually they were fawning and taking jobs everywhere, and the scale was not as big as it is now. Of course, if we convert materials into money, we did not earn as much as we do now. Now, Miss Hua provides both money and supplies, and both the contractor and Hu Jing are making a fortune. The contractor said proudly, so I asked you to flatter Miss Hua more and be sweet-mouthed. Was I right? Following Miss Hua is the best choice for us. Hu Jing nodded. How could he not know? Even if he didn't understand it before, 2 or 3 months had passed. How could he not know? The world can't possibly get better. The sky continued to get dark, heavy rain began to pour, and the water on the ground solidified. Looking at the temperature, cold air will be coming soon. I still don't know what the situation will be at that time. I don't know how many people will die. Therefore, Hu Jing and the others were already very satisfied as long as they had something to eat. Then go ahead. I'll monitor the progress of the project in Xiangqing. Hu Jing assured the contractor that according to Miss Hua's instructions, there were only 3 projects left in Xiangqing. The RV supermarket warehouse was expanded, the Xiangqing Road was lit up, and the wall of the Lotus Xingxing supermarket was raised to 10 meters. These 3 projects are being carried out simultaneously. Hu Jing only needs to keep an eye on them every day and make sure every infrastructure step is solid. The contractor quickly packed up and went to the material warehouse in City B to reach another peak in his career. Only Hu Jing stayed in Xiangqing to continue completing their engineering projects. Not long after, Hu Jing received a call from the contractor. "This is incredible, Jinger, we really got a really big leg." On the phone, the contractor described to Hu Jing that they had actually been in Xiangqing all the time and had never been outside. "After I came out, I found that there were garrison checkpoints all the way from Xiangqing to Xiangbi Expressway. Even on Hunanbi Expressway, there are police patrolling back and forth. The police transport team led by Yang Honglin, the clearance team led by Wu Shigao, and the garrisons along the way connected perfectly to guard the Hunanbi Expressway tightly. The police transport team, clearance team, and garrison, each of them holds an AK-47 in their hands. To be honest, when the contractor saw these men armed with guns, he felt completely safe. At times like this, these people and these guns mean that one's life is protected. There are still many people setting up stalls along the Hunanbi Expressway. Although setting up stalls on the highway is absolutely not allowed before a disaster strikes. But there is nothing we can do now. The whole world is like this now, and we can't deal with current affairs in the same way as before. Those vendors are doing pretty good business." The contractor was sitting in the car, which was going against the crowd of survivors heading to Xiangqing and City B. He excitedly said to Hu Jing while driving, "We must hold Miss Hua's big thick legs tightly. You must do a good job. These Party A tyrants are not short of money, and Miss Hua is not short of supplies. Miss Hua is looking at the quality of the project. Quality, you know. The contractor has already found his way of survival here with Huami. No matter how he commits suicide, as long as the quality of the project is good, Miss Hua will use him. Always use him." In the end, he was used more and more. By the time the contractor's car arrived at the material depot in City B, the 2,000 survivors there had been almost divided up. Without the instigator around them, everyone was easily persuaded by Huami. She said she could provide them with free supplies, but they had to provide their own labor to get the free supplies. In the future, Huami will also be able to provide continuous job opportunities for everyone, including 3 meals and 2 snacks, straw sandals, straw hats, clothes made of straw, etc. All we need is for everyone to provide the labor. More and more people accepted Huami's suggestion, lined up to receive supplies, then registered their name, age, and gender, and took the supplies to the side to eat, waiting for the contractor to come and assign work to them. The contractor was holding a pack of cigarettes that he got from somewhere. When he saw the garrison, he handed them a pack and said, "Thank you for your hard work. Come on, brother, have a cigarette." The garrison stood motionless in the heavy rain, not speaking or taking a cigarette, silently refusing. The contractor did not feel that he was being insulted. He just showed his gold teeth and smiled as he passed cigarettes along the way. If one garrison officer did not take one, he would pass it to the next one. Huami stood at the door of the material warehouse in City B, watching the contractor walking towards her with his head bowed and nodding all the way, and thought that he was also a talent. Isn't someone who can bend and stretch himself a talent? Miss Hua. The contractor came over and took out a 20-carat diamond ring from his shoulder bag. "Hey, Miss Hua, you see I came here in a hurry and didn't bring anything else. I bought this from a friend of mine. He was in a hurry to use the money to buy supplies, so he sold it to me for 200,000. Huami lowered her eyes and looked speechlessly at the 20-carat diamond ring handed to her by the contractor. In my ear, the contractor was still saying, "From the first moment I saw this diamond ring, I knew that in this world, only someone as elegant as Miss Hua could be worthy of such a big diamond ring. Well, I bought it directly for you. Miss Hua, please don't despise it. This is my filial piety to you. It's only 200,000 yuan. The contractor is rich." Huami's mouth twitched, and she forced a smile. looking at the contractor with a mouth full of gold teeth, with a sincere look of flattery on his face. She still reached out and took the 20-carat diamond ring. "Thank you very much." "No thanks, no thanks. I'll give you a bigger one later. 30 carats, not 40 carats, so you can wear it on your whole hand." When it comes to currying favor with people, contractors are the most professional. Huami waved her hand, not talking nonsense with the contractor, and just gave instructions. As she said that, she turned around and threw the ball of paper in her hand into the trash can next to her. Recycling, paper ball, conversion energy x 0.0000 tip. Energy has been charged into the level 15 factory. Energy overcharge plus 99.999% obtain. Energy light group X1. Huami was about to leave when she saw this string of notifications pop up. Unexpectedly, the trash can that was awarded as an upgrade reward for this small garbage recycling station can actually recycle garbage. Huami ran back to the trash can and looked inside. It was still an ordinary plastic trash can. It looked no different from any ordinary cheap trash can. But the ball of paper she had just thrown in had disappeared. Huami thought about it for a moment and threw another orange into it. The orange fell into the trash can right under her nose. Then, at a slow speed, it gradually merged into a pitch-black hole and disappeared without a trace. Recycling. Orange X1, conversion energy x 0.000 tip. Energy has been charged into the 15th level factory. Energy overcharge plus 99.999% obtain. Energy light group X1. Of course, an orange cannot be converted into a ball of energy light, but Huami has 46 sweeping robots in her hands at the same time, eating her garbage. Therefore, the energy light group is acquired very quickly. Now, with the addition of a trash can to help eat the trash, the speed of converting energy light should be faster. Now it's a good thing. The tow cleaning team she had originally under her command collected the garbage and threw it into the landfill, where Huami would deal with it. Huami has to go to the garbage dump every few days. Now that we have this trash can, we can just throw the trash into it and Huami doesn't even have to go to the garbage dump to collect the trash. This trash can is so convenient and saves Huami a lot of time. The only drawback of this trash can is that it is too small. It is only the size of an ordinary household trash can, and I can't hold much garbage at one time. It can only provide a convenient place for people to throw away small pieces of garbage. If they really want to throw a whole corpse in there at once, there won't even be enough space for the head. Thinking of this, Huami quietly pushed the trash can a little further out the door so that people coming and going could throw away their trash more conveniently. An old lady walked over with a few green onions in her hand. Huami raised her foot and moved the trash can closer to the old lady. The old lady threw the onion peel in her hand to the ground and ignored the trash can under Huami's feet. She just walked over and Huami's face darkened. She screamed in her heart, "You litter, old lady." She waved to the contractor beside her. The contractor immediately trotted over and said, "Miss Hua, please give me your orders." Huami pointed at the trash can and said to the contractor, "Make a sign that says, 'For the beauty of the material warehouse, please do not litter. Violators will have their supplies withheld.'" This is a clear hint from her that people passing by should not litter on the ground, but should throw it into the trash can. The contractor was stunned for a moment, then immediately saluted Huami with a serious face. "Yes, I promise to complete Miss Hua's instructions. Miss Hua, take care. If Miss Hua needs you in the future, just let me know. Miss Hua, be careful with your steps and don't fall, Miss Hua." As the contractor continued to chatter away, Huami turned and walked deeper into the warehouse. Seeing that there was still no news from Gong Yi, Huami planned to return to Xiangqing first, waiting for news from Gong Yi while settling the newly acquired 11 square meters of black land. While teleporting, she opened the control panel. She originally wanted to produce some supplies, consume some energy bars, and upgrade the level of the small garbage station. As a result, on the level 15 factory page, I saw that it seemed to have gained a new function. Level 15 factory. Water bottle. Mineral water. Waterproof tarpaulin. Self-priming filter type anti-particulate respirator. Orange juice, ethanol. Painkillers, sterile gauze. Hemostatic gel. Goggles, condoms, resin gloves, protective clothing, sterile boots, rescue rope, engineer shovel synthetic production. Energy water droplet X1 requires energy light group consumption X 10,000. Agree, cancel. She got a new gadget. After reacting, Huami discovered that on the panel of the level 15 factory, all limited production materials had been produced. But there is a new feature. What is energy drop? Is it related to the upgrade of Huami's garbage recycling station to a small garbage recycling station? So one energy droplet requires 10,000 energy light groups to synthesize? Isn't this too much of a ripoff? Can it be cheaper? She works very hard picking up trash. Huami complained and clicked agree, using energy light ball X 10,000 to synthesize energy water drop X1. The original garbage recycling station can convert garbage into energy to recharge the level 17 factory as long as it recycles the garbage. When the energy of the level 17 factory is fully charged, the excess energy will be converted into energy light and stored. This energy ball is light, which cannot be seen or touched, and does not take up the space of level 17 storage. And only a small amount of garbage can be converted into energy light ball X1. But as for this energy water drop, it is obvious that you need energy light group X 10,000 to synthesize energy water drop X1. Then there should be some difference between it and energy light ball. Huami took out the so-called energy drop from the level 17 storage and took a look. It's only a little bit as big as a sesame seed. She spent 10,000 energy light and you only gave her one sesame-sized energy water drop? She stared with wide eyes at the tiny sesame seed drop in her white and tender palm. She wanted to see it as a flower. Although the energy droplets are very small, they emit a little bit of lustrous luster in the darkness, condensed but not dispersed, which is very similar to jelly water. Huami suddenly had a very strange idea. The rain that fell on the ground and accumulated into jelly water, could it be the same as her energy water drops? Huami already knew the function of energy light group, so energy water drops must have a similar function, just a concentrated energy light group. The effect is definitely better than energy light ball. She didn't dare to find someone to experiment with easily, so she threw more than a dozen energy light to the garrison in City A last time, which resulted in the dying garrison in City A becoming much stronger. If we give the energy drops to ordinary people easily, wouldn't they explode and die? Sister Hua put the energy drop into the level 17 storage, thought for a while, and called Chi Chuan. You haven't recovered from your injury yet? I need someone to work here. How many days has it been? Chi Chuan and Uncle 8 are still lying down? Why don't they get up and work? Doesn't Huami's level 17 factory produce water bottles of all specifications? She wants to find a group of people to put the jelly water on the ground into small bottles for her. If the jelly water is really as she guessed, the energy in it is similar to the effects of energy light and energy water droplets. Then Huami can bottle the jelly water and sell it to the psychics when they level up and fight monsters, and use it as blue medicine to replenish their psychic energy. In this way, Huami would not have to store the giant jelly water collected using condoms into the level 17 storage. She needs to build a factory specifically for filling jelly water into bottles. All those condoms piled up in the landfill can be taken to the factory. On the phone, Chi Chuan immediately said, Okay, Sister Hua, I'm just about to call you. I'll get to work right away. So Huami told Chi Chuan about her plan. Chi Chuan slapped his head and said, Let's ask the factory director about this. Doesn't he have a ready-made water plant? We just need to transport the jelly water from Xiangqing and B City to the factory director. Huami had forgotten that there was a real water plant director in her RV supermarket. If it comes to producing blue medicine, isn't this a good skill? So, he immediately hung up the phone with Chi Chuan and called Yi Rong, but she didn't have the factory director's phone number. Yi Rong called the factory director over, and Huami told him about reopening the water plant. For a moment, the factory director was extremely excited. Miss Hua, don't worry. I am a professional in producing mineral water. My factory management is top-notch in the whole Xiangqing. The factory director can guarantee this with confidence. Otherwise, how come all the water plants in and outside Xiangqing went bankrupt, but only the mineral water plant he managed survived to the end? When the disaster struck, The director's plant was still running for a long time. This has a lot to do with his high standards, strict requirements, and strict management. Huami uttered a few sounds. Then I will arrange for Jing to rebuild your factory for you. Tell me what equipment you need. On the phone, the factory manager replied eagerly. Last time, I went back to my factory to check. The original equipment is still there. If there are any minor problems, I can fix them myself. Then I can recruit workers and start working right away. He has worked in the mineral water factory for decades and started out as a skilled worker. The factory had been buried in ruins before. Some time ago, the city clearance team cleared out all the stone fragments and other garbage in Xiangqing. So the mineral water factory has been dug out from the ruins, and the ruins have been cleared. This city clearance team is really something. Such a powerful team has not yet been swallowed up by the contractor and Jing. Huami is so jealous that she is about to burst into tears. She asked the factory director to contact Jing, and after repairing the water plant, she hung up the factory director's phone. As soon as the call was hung up, another call came in. It was from Chi-Chuan again. I only heard Chi-Chuan happily say on the phone, "Sister Hua, I met a friend of a friend in the emergency department of City B. He specializes in wholesale of Chinese medicinal materials and has a large amount of Chinese medicinal materials in his hands. He probably has dozens of tons of Chinese medicinal herbs. If we want more, he can find his colleagues and get them for us. Sister Hua, are we interested?" It's also because that little friend has had a very difficult life recently, with natural disasters and man-made tragedies that caught him off guard. After much inquiries and various connections, he finally found Ikuo's friends. Now, the only one who has the appetite and ability to swallow dozens of tons of medicinal materials and can give a good price is Huami behind Chi-Chuan. As long as you are willing to look for it, you can always find Huami. The storage conditions for Chinese medicinal materials are quite troublesome, especially in this weather. Ikuo's friends have to find ways to preserve his dozens of tons of Chinese medicinal materials every day. These are all good medicinal herbs. It would be such a waste if they were soaked with water. In addition to a few medicinal herbs that are known to the public, what medicinal herbs can be combined with what other herbs, what effects can they produce, and what diseases can they be used to treat? Without a professional Chinese medicine pharmacist to prescribe, who would dare to randomly mix and boil the herbs. This is how Chinese medicine is. If you randomly mix the prescriptions, it is very likely that good medicine will turn into poison, and poison will turn into highly toxic. Even the medicinal properties of medicinal materials may change due to improper storage. The medicinal properties of different medicinal materials will be strengthened or weakened to varying degrees depending on what medicinal materials are boiled together. In the past, if people wanted to take Chinese medicine, they could go online and buy books with Chinese medicine prescriptions. But where can the survivors go to the internet now? Even if you can use the universal signal connector sold by Huami and buy books online, who will deliver the goods to you? And if you are not an expert, you probably won't know what Chinese medicinal herbs are. Many medicinal herbs actually look similar. At least in Huami's eyes. They were all a bunch of plants that looked similar. In short, this batch of medicinal materials became useless to Ikuo's friends. If I really have to throw it away, I really can't bear to do that. If the conditions permit, I can continue to preserve it, and maybe it can save many lives in the future. The prerequisite is that someone has such huge engine energy that can take over these dozens of tons of Chinese medicinal materials. Huami only took half a second to think. It's all in. Tell your friends to buy all the Chinese medicinal herbs you have. Ikuo's friend specializes in Chinese medicinal materials business, so naturally he knows many people in the same industry. Huami is now a rich man, an extremely rich man. But Ikuo's friends only want money. Because here in Huami, money is useful and can be used to buy supplies. If the other party wants to exchange supplies, he will have to carry so many supplies that they will go bad if he can't finish them, and they might even be robbed. So, I just exchanged it all into cash or stored it in electronic currency online. Anyway, he had already bought Huami's universal signal connector. When the time comes, he will live in City B with his family, eat and buy little, and survive for a long time. Ikuo agreed. Then Sister Hua, I will come with him, and we will go move the herbs. Those Chinese medicinal materials are stored in the medical market in City B, not far from Huami. Okay. Huami asked Qi Chuan and the Chinese medicine merchant to drive to the supply warehouse in City B to pick her up. After hanging up the phone with Qi Chuan, Huami carefully looked at the remaining space in her level 17 storage. There's not much left. Although she took out a lot of straw in the past 2 days, she also harvested a lot of straw at the same time. However, her level 17 storage should be able to be upgraded a few levels. At this time, outside the B City Supply Depot, among the group of people, there was a man who was looking down. He was shoveling mud with an engineer shovel not far from the supply depot and whispered to the man next to him, "Brother, you are right. Something happened to our people." Zhu Xianjun, who was called Big Brother and was a big man under Chun, who frowned when he heard this. Fortunately, I didn't follow that witch when she went to the highway. At that time, they all saw Huami walking towards the highway alone. Zhu Xianjun hadn't touched a woman for a long time, so he wanted to go. But he hid among the survivors and never came forward to demand or extort supplies from the survivors. On the contrary, he has a good relationship with several survivors. When his minions instigated the survivors to hit the garrison with stones, Zhu Xianjun didn't move a finger. He maintained such a good image, so Zhu Xianjun hesitated for a moment and asked his henchmen to go and play with the witch Huami first. Who would have thought that the little thugs would follow her, and in the end Huami was the only one who came back safe and sound. Zhu Xianjun remained calm. He continued to mingle with the survivors until the contractor came and divided them into groups. He was assigned to use an engineering shovel to shovel the mud and clear a wide area of land. While shoveling the mud, Zhu Xianjun ordered the remaining few men to pretend to be ordinary survivors and sneak out to the road to look for someone. Not a single one of their people was found. Therefore, most of his men met with accidents on the way to kidnap Huami. Zhu Xianjun gritted his teeth. Just like that, he lost more than half of his men, which made him angry to death. "Brother, we are just afraid that we have been lured by that witch." Xiaomazai said, "Besides fishing, there is no other explanation. Otherwise, why would Huami go to the highway alone to wander around? It's obvious that she deliberately led them there. Brother, we can't just let this grudge go." The little pony boy continued, "I found out that this girl's name is Huami, and she is said to be the girlfriend of one of their garrisons. Because of the information blockage, a lot of information was not communicated in a timely manner. The only thing we could find out was which garrison officer Huami's girlfriend was, and it was the contractor who let it slip, treating it as something to show off." Zhu Xianjun looked at the contractor, who was directing the survivors to set up tents on the spot in the distance. As expected, he is an engineer. No matter if he has gold teeth or silver teeth, he still needs some organizational and planning skills to be able to arrange more than 2,000 people. Zhu Xianjun didn't want to admit it, but the contractor boasted that if he did things according to his organization's arrangements, he could get these 2,000 people into tents within 24 hours. They moved into the prefabricated houses within 48 hours, and the water and electricity were connected to the houses within 36 hours. A factory building was built within 10 days. Zhu Xianjun sneered and said, "Go ahead and brag. This contractor, who exudes the air of a nouveau riche, go ahead and brag." Zhu Xianjun gritted his teeth and felt that the name Huami sounded particularly familiar. "They are ready to leave." Zhu Xianjun spat on the ground. "Just right. I'm tired of shoveling this mud." In the distance, the contractor was still holding a loudspeaker and shouting to the survivors who were shoveling mud, "In 10 days, when the factory is built, you will have jobs, supplies, and a stable life. Your life will be the same as before. Come on, everyone. God, life will be the same as before." This kind of nonsense can only fool ordinary survivors, but it can't fool Zhu Xianjun. On the contrary, he felt that this kind of environment without rules and order, which could restrain him, was something he liked very much. Huami was waiting for Qi Chuan in the supply warehouse in City B. During this time, she kept cleaning the straw in the level 17 warehouse. I checked the fruits in the level 17 storage again. In addition to oranges, grapefruits, and apples, the production of 4 other fruits, namely cherries, pomegranates, kiwis, and cantaloupes, has also increased. Huami took out all the fruits mentioned above and put them into the material warehouse of City B to make room for her own level 17 storage. For the survivors who were working outside, it was time to take a break and eat, so they lined up to get their meals. Someone excitedly said to the person behind him, "I think I saw that in addition to the food, each person was given 2 pomegranates? Really? Didn't you say there were no 2 points? This is not just for snacks. This fruit is a standard item in every meal." Someone explained it to the survivors queuing up behind. At this time, the contractor was still cheering up the survivors, encouraging everyone to work hard. As long as they worked hard, they would have a stable life, bread, and milk. In the face of abundant food, this kind of chicken blood has some credibility. After all, the food was really good, and the survivors saw it. Zhu Xianjun became more and more disdainful of this. Now they were under the eyes of the garrison, and the few remaining henchmen under his command could no longer be exposed. Otherwise, he would have ordered his minions to collect all the fruits from the survivors. Then, Zhu Xianjun told his minions to quietly leave the group of survivors, follow Huami, and be ready to ambush this witch at any time. When Qi Chuan and his car came over, Huami said something to Tang Yu. Sister Hua wanted to buy medicinal herbs, and Tang Yu couldn't stop her. But considering Huami's current physical condition, he found 2 garrisons to follow and protect Huami. As long as Huami doesn't go to City A, she can go anywhere. Huami and his group took a car and went directly to the medical market in City B. The jelly water in City B is also under control.
Feng Yuqi has done a good job.
After raining for so long, there is only a thin layer of jelly water on the road. Knowing that Huami had entered City B, Feng Yuqi also brought 10 garrisons, each of whom carried an AK-47 on his back. Feng Yuqi listened to Tang Yu's words and temporarily found 10 garrisons to help transport the medicinal materials. I saw Qichuan's friend's friend, the herbal medicine merchant Zhong Changjin, with a smile on his face, pointing to a dark street ahead. This used to be a street for Chinese medicinal materials. The whole street was dedicated to selling Chinese medicinal materials. Cordyceps sinensis, saffron, ginseng, Gastrodia alata, donkey hide gelatin, seahorse, musk, Gastrodia alata, ambergris, and Ganoderma lucidum can all be found on this street. As Zhong Changjin spoke, his face, soaked with rain, was filled with nostalgia. The former B City Outer Medicinal Materials Wholesale Market was the largest pharmaceutical wholesale market in the entire southern region of the continent. Chinese herbal medicines only account for a small share of this large pharmaceutical wholesale market. Over the past few months, the Western medicine here has been gradually snatched up. They don't have the conditions to boil Chinese herbal medicine, so our Chinese herbal medicine has been preserved instead. Zhong Changjin continued to talk, leading Huami and his group, and it was unclear who was the first to start snatching the medicine. Anyway, at the beginning, the bosses of their medical market were able to organize themselves and unite to resist the survivors who came to loot the medical market. Later, there were fewer and fewer bosses in the pharmaceutical market. This large pharmaceutical market had gone through rounds of destructive looting, and almost all the Western medicine pills with more proven efficacy had been snatched away. The power of the masses is so terrifying that now in the huge medicinal materials market, it is almost impossible to find a packet of medicine pills. Zhong Changjin said this and led a group of people into the market. Everyone held the flashlights provided by Huami and walked inside until they arrived in front of the warehouse. Before getting close to the warehouse, you can smell a strong medicinal aroma. I heard Zhong Changjin babble. I rented a large warehouse here. The moisture-proof conditions are pretty good, and I don't know where the warehouse owner is now. He hasn't come out to collect rent for several months. Otherwise, the goods in my warehouse can't be preserved. In this world, it is too easy to give up because of various difficulties. Zhong Changjin couldn't make it through a period of time. If it weren't for the good moisture-proof conditions of this warehouse and the fact that the warehouse owner had disappeared and stopped collecting rent, he would have given up on this batch of medicinal materials long ago. He wouldn't have to wait for Huami to come and buy his medicinal herbs. Huami walked to a pile of Sichuan clams, took out a bag, and opened it. She couldn't understand the quality of the medicinal materials. She only knew that the Sichuan clams in her hand were full of grains, milky white, and had a smooth surface. "Miss Hua, these are the best pineapples." Zhong Chongjin came over with a bag of shells and showed Huami the difference between the two. This Sichuan clam is also divided into loose clam, green clam, and furnace clam. These are all good products for me. Otherwise, it would be such a pity for me to throw away these products. He explained the medicinal materials in his hand. His honest face seemed to be shining, and his eyes showed the same persistence as Kuminghong. Huami turned her head and didn't look at the Sichuan clam in her hand. Instead, she looked at Zhong Chongjin. She knew this kind of person. For the same thing, they have almost paranoid persistence and love, and they continue to study and delve deeply into a certain field. Cutting off their hobbies is like killing them and makes them feel uncomfortable. Zhong Chongjin likes traditional Chinese medicine and has deep knowledge in this field. Huami cleared her throat and listened to Zhong Chongjin's introduction of the 3 types of Sichuan fritillaria, and then he started talking about Min fritillaria, Ping fritillaria, Sheng fritillaria, and Bei fritillaria. She interrupted Zhong Chongjin and said, "I will buy these herbs at your previous selling price. I will buy them at the same price you sold them to others. You can also use this money to buy supplies in Xiangqing and City B in the future." When these words were spoken, not only Zhong Chongjin was stunned, but even Qi Chuan was stunned. Buy it according to the previous shipping price. In this world, isn't it possible to lower the price a bit? You know, a contractor can use 200,000 yuan to buy a 20-carat diamond, not to mention these Chinese herbal medicines, which we don't know when we can sell them. Then I heard Huami say, "Also, I have some Ganoderma lucidum in my hand. I originally wanted to fry it as a side dish for the garrison. Can you help me figure out how to eat it so that the Ganoderma lucidum can have the greatest effect?" Fry the Ganoderma lucidum and eat it as a side dish? Zhong Chongjin wondered if he had heard it wrong. Then, he saw Huami take out a fresh, dark purple Ganoderma lucidum as big as her face from her raincoat. She said with a nonchalant look on her face, "This one is only this big. The garrisons all eat from a big pot. I think it takes about a dozen lingji to make a big pot." This Zhong Chongjin leaned closer to look at the large purple Ganoderma in Huami's hand. Huami saw that Zhong Chongjin was full of shame and felt ashamed for showing off in front of Master Shi Wang just now. She waved her hands hastily.
Don't say that.
"I'm really asking for your advice." "Well, then, I'll give you this, Shi Wang. Let's go and pay the bill. Then I hope Mr. Zhong can help me collect some more medicinal materials. If you know any reliable old Chinese medicine doctors, please recommend them to go to the emergency areas in Xiangqing and City B, where there is a shortage of medical care." Because of Zhong Chongjin's attitude, Huami suddenly felt ashamed of herself. She didn't even dare to say that she still had more than 100 jiwang in her level 17 warehouse. Because the Ganoderma lucidum on her black soil will keep growing if it is not picked. It can grow to the size of a face in one day, and Huami can pick several such big Ganoderma lucidum every day. It turns out that such a big purple Ganoderma lucidum is called the King of Ganoderma. This is the first time Huami has heard of it. The reason why Zhong Chongjin recommended the old Chinese doctor to come out of retirement and work in the emergency areas of Xiangqing and City B was because Huami still had 11 square meters of black land that had not been settled. She plans to use these 11 square meters of black soil to grow Chinese herbal medicine. She thought about it carefully. In the last life, during the apocalypse, many pharmaceutical factories closed down one after another and were never rebuilt. Coupled with the cultural gap, by the time of the second generation, there were few people who could read, let alone rebuild a pharmaceutical production factory. Living off old capital has many aspects to it. Western medicine, which requires multiple rigorous and complicated processes, will definitely run out one day. The Chinese herbal medicines that can be grown seem much more reliable. At this time, Huami found all the old Chinese medicine practitioners, protected them, and let them play their value in curing diseases and saving lives. At the same time, he personally trained a group of apprentices. In this way, in the future, if Huami's children have a fever or something, They don't have to worry about not having doctors and medicine. Zhong Chongjin stared blankly at the jiwang stuffed into his hand. It was the first time he had seen such a fresh jiwang, as if it had just been picked. It's a bit hot, but I can't bear to refuse. In the end, Zhong Chongjin agreed to help Huami find an old Chinese doctor. He took the money that Huami transferred to his mobile phone in a daze and completed the transaction between him and Huami. He held the jiwang in his hand and walked out of the warehouse where rain was pouring down. Jiwang, what he had always dreamed of, wanting to get a bottle of jiwang. Now he has it in his hands. Zhong Chongjin couldn't figure out his own mood for a moment, as if he was dreaming. He walked 2 steps and came back and said to Huami in a dull voice, "Miss Hua, next to this warehouse, there are 100 tons of Cordyceps sinensis. They belong to my friend. I have already informed him, and he said that if Miss Hua wants to buy them, can she buy these Cordyceps sinensis as well?" After a pause, Zhong Chongjin said hesitantly, "Of course, if Miss Hua has any concerns, forget it." He doesn't have high expectations. In fact, even Zhong Chongjin himself did not have high expectations and would not sell all the goods he had to Huami at once at the pre-disaster price. After all, it would have taken a long time to sell so many Chinese herbal medicines even before the earthquake. Huami is a woman. No matter how powerful her background is, she has to take it easy. But Huami was very generous and very wealthy. "Okay, let him come over to order the goods and collect the money. I'll take all of it." It was only 100 tons of Cordyceps sinensis. Although Huami didn't know much about Chinese medicine, the name Cordyceps sinensis was very familiar to her. Received it all. "How many Chinese herbs are there in this warehouse?" "I want them all. Mr. Zhong, please contact the owner of these herbs for me." After saying that, Huami turned around and looked at Chi Chuan. "Chuanzi, please register and take everyone to the next door to move the Cordyceps sinensis." She found an excuse, sent everyone away, and stayed in Zhong Chongjin's warehouse. Just to store all of Zhong Chongjin's goods into her level 17 warehouse in one go. A group of people walked out, one by one, without any objection. After leaving the door, Zhong Chongjin looked back with his jiwang in his hand, looking at the warehouse behind him, and asked Chi Chuan, "Chuanzi, what is Miss Hua doing in there alone?" Chi Chuan laughed meaningfully. "We don't need to care what Sister Hua is doing in there, just contact your colleagues." Who knows what Sister Hua is tinkering with all by herself? Both Chi Chuan and Fong Yuqi knew that this kind of thing was not their business, so they should not pursue it. You pursue it too clearly, you'll appear to be overly ambitious. In fact, there are more and more unreasonable things. The biggest unreasonable thing is that the sky never gets brighter, the rain never stops, countless cities collapse, and order collapses. In the midst of so much despair, suddenly there is such a Huami. Even though there are too many unreasonable things, she doesn't say anything, and the people around her shouldn't ask. So no one is a fool. Gong Yi is not the only one who can see her irrationality. In fact, many people can see it. It's just that everyone tacitly agreed not to say anything. Zhong Chongjin scratched his head and left. Chi Chuan and Fong Yuqi led the garrison and stood guard at the door of the Cordyceps warehouse, waiting for Zhong Chongjin to find the boss of Cordyceps. Huami stayed in Zhong Chongjin's warehouse and collected 9/10 of the Chinese herbal medicines in the warehouse in one go. The remaining 1/10 was left for the garrison and Ikua's friends to carry. You have to pretend, right? Unlock storage level 18, space 18 by 1. Get lucky draw x1 remaining draws x9. Unlock storage level 19, space 19 by 1. Get lucky draw x1 remaining draws x10. Chinese herbal medicine is different from pills. A batch of Chinese herbal medicine boiled together can only be taken once, so the volume of this batch of Chinese herbal medicine is very large. It takes up a lot of Huami's storage space. Huami felt that if she could collect all 100 tons of Cordyceps sinensis, the warehouse could probably be upgraded to level 20. There is a whole street of Chinese herbal medicines on this street, and they are all well preserved. Huami pondered for a moment and looked back at the empty medicinal material warehouse. She took out all the straw mats, oranges, grapefruits, apples, cherries, pomegranates, kiwis, and cantaloupes from the level 19 warehouse. All of them were put into this warehouse. Really? He threw them all into the warehouse, leaving no straw or fruits behind, freeing up a lot of space in the level 19 warehouse. The price is that Zhong Chongjin's warehouse is about to be crushed and exploded. How much was it squeezed? Huami stood at the door of the warehouse and was squeezed out by the pile of supplies that suddenly appeared. Sister Hua. Fang Yuqi was quick-witted and rushed over, stretching out his hand to stop Huami. Otherwise, Huami would definitely be pushed into the mud by the straw that rushed out of the warehouse door. Chi Chuan hurried over and looked at the warehouse door, which couldn't even be closed. This. Sister Hua, don't panic, this is normal. There are just too many supplies in the warehouse, so Sister Hua was squeezed out. It's not a big deal. Fang Yuqi and the others were comforting themselves in the messy wind. They were still holding on. At this time, Chi Chuan turned around and called out to those who were trying to stabilize their garrison, "Brothers, I'm going to call our team's car over. What about you?" Ikegawa's main business now is speculation. We not only look for various large volume sources of goods for Huami, but also wholesale supplies from Huami. Then he and his friends set up a stall at the gate of City B and engaged in second-hand wholesale. The transportation matter was taken over by Yang Honglin and his veteran policeman. Fang Yuqi just came to help today because a Chinese medicinal material supply warehouse suddenly appeared, so Yang Honglin and others have not yet allocated any manpower. Fang Yuqi nodded. The garrison vehicles are coming. We will carry the straw mats, and you will carry the oranges and other fruits. Just turn a blind eye to this warehouse full of straw and fruits. It's about to burst. Where are the Chinese herbal medicines? Turn a blind eye. Ignorance is actually a kind of happiness. After everyone divided the work, Chi Chuan and his friends moved the fruits to the city gate of City B for wholesale. Fang Yuqi moved the straw mats to the entrance of the material warehouse in City B, where there was a makeshift, unqualified straw mat weaving workshop. It is Sister Hua's property. After a while, large trucks came one after another, some were tattered, and some were brand new. You can tell at first glance that it is a large truck that was gathered from various sources. There were about 20 people from Chi Chuan's friends and Fang Yuqi's garrison each. Everyone was busy. Some were moving mats, some were moving fruits. Huami stood under the eaves of the warehouse and began to count the accounts. Even the cost of these supplies taken out of her level 19 warehouse, even a handful of straw, had to be calculated. The supplies used for the garrison were deducted from the city reserve funds of Xiangqing and City B. Ikegawa paid for the supplies that he took away, and the money was exchanged for the goods. So today is another day when Huami makes a fortune. When everyone was busy moving supplies, Zhu Xianjun and his team finally arrived at the outskirts of the medical market. Although they are working under the garrison's nose and are surrounded by garrisons watching them, if there are survivors who do not want to work here and want to leave, the garrison will not force the survivors. Therefore, Zhu Xianjun and others left smoothly without raising the alarm of the garrison. However, for fear of being discovered by the garrisons around Huami, they did not dare to get too close to Huami along the way. When they arrived near City B, they lost Huami. They searched for a long time, and in the dark sky, they almost lost their way. Finally, in the dark, they saw one large truck after another heading towards the medical market, so they followed them with the mentality of giving it a try. Such a neat and orderly convoy of trucks driving on the road must be transporting some supplies. Even if I don't find that little witch Huami, it would be good to find a bunch of supplies. So Zhu Xianjun didn't even turn on the car lights along the way, for fear of being discovered. Outside the medical market, Zhu Xianjun's little pony ran out in a hurry. "Brother, those trucks were really going there to pick up supplies. I couldn't see clearly because they were far away, but I saw a truck of fruit passing by me." A truckload of fruit? Zhu Xianjun was about to drool. There were more than 10 or 20 trucks entering the medical market just now. With so many trucks, you can see how much fruit is stored here. Then Zhu Xianjun cursed, "These people are really cunning." They hid the fruit warehouse in the Chinese medicine warehouse. No wonder the boss didn't get any wind of it. Chun, who has countless men under his command. In the 3 months after the disaster, countless men have become Chun Hu's eyes, searching everywhere for supply warehouses for Chernhu. In fact, Zhu Xianjun had visited this pharmaceutical market a long time ago. At that time, he took his men and tortured and killed several Western medicine bosses and stole a lot of Western medicine. Because he didn't know what Chinese herbal medicine was and how to take it, Chernhu gave up on this herbal medicine market. If he had known that there were large quantities of fruits hidden in this Chinese herbal medicine market area, he would have moved out long ago. Missed billion. Zhu Xianjuan's subordinates also looked regretful and sad. So what should we do now? Brother, we can't just watch them take away such a large batch of our fruits. In the minds of the little ponies, this large batch of fruits already belongs to them. Including the material warehouse in City B, it is actually theirs. They just didn't eat it. Zhu Xianjun had a fierce look in his eyes. He hid in the dark, watching the trucks loaded with fruits passing by him one after another. Every time a truck loaded with fruit passed by, Zhu Xianjun couldn't help but curse. He whispered to the pony boy beside him, "Let's pretend to be ordinary survivors looking for medicine. The garrisons won't be suspicious of us. Let's find that witch first. After you control that witch, leave quickly." You see, she followed the garrison out to move supplies. She might even know the location of many supply depots. In the past 2 days, Zhu Xianjun found a few more henchmen in City B, and the information he obtained was constantly updated. He already knew that the reason Gong Yi was able to support more than 5,000 garrisons was because Huami was helping him purchase supplies. That's why Huami, this woman, is so important to the garrison, and not just because Huami's boyfriend is someone in the garrison. So, Huami must know the locations of many supply warehouses. Zhu Xianjun asked a small henchman to report the information he had obtained to his boss. He took a dozen of his men with him and dispersed into the Chinese herbal medicine area of the pharmaceutical market. At this time, Zhong Chongjin also rushed over with a dozen Chinese herbal medicine owners. They all came to sell the Chinese herbal medicines they had. Everyone is a big boss in this Chinese herbal medicine market, and everyone is an expert when it comes to Chinese herbal medicine. Except for the fact that they are not very proficient in taking pulses and diagnosing illnesses, these people can easily prescribe ordinary medicine. Huami thinks they are all talented. In fact, if a person can become a superior, he must have the ability to bear the heavy responsibility. We should treat such people better so that they can survive, live into the future, and create their value. Huami bought all the Chinese medicinal herbs from these dozen bosses at the price before the disaster. Yes, one bite, swallow it all. Faced with Huami's lavish spending, more than a dozen Chinese herbal medicine shop owners were silent for a moment. Finally, someone spoke up. "Miss Hua, don't worry, our medicinal materials are all good, the most genuine and the best quality in this industry." Since Huami is so honest and gave them a price that they can't even imagine now, they have to give Huami some guarantees. Zhong Chongjin nodded. "I can guarantee this, Miss Hua. I have been operating in this market for more than 10 years. Those who come here today are not sneaky people. All the medicinal materials are good. We have found and discarded all the insect-eaten and damp-soaked medicinal materials. You can rest assured about this." More than a dozen big bosses wanted to raise their fingers and swear that their business is based on integrity. Otherwise, we wouldn't be as big as we are today.
Huami smiled.
"I'm not worried about that. I'm not just planning to do business with you this time. If you have other ways to find other medicinal materials, whether Chinese or Western, I'll buy them. As long as the medicine is good, I will buy it from you at the price before the end of the world. You can come to me to buy supplies after you get the money. I always accept money here." Because she has a apocalypse supermarket cashier system, which recognizes money. Zhong Chongjin, including a dozen or so Chinese medicinal materials shop owners, happily left with their mobile phones. On the phone case is the universal signal connector bot from Huami, which has a cartoon style and is full of childishness. In the phone is the payment that Huami had just transferred to them, and they can use the money they received from the goods to allow him and his family to live a good life for several years. As long as Huami doesn't fall and she recognizes money, the money in their mobile phones can be spent. Of course, if they could find more Chinese herbal medicines for Huami, Huami would accept them all. Everyone was ready to go, talking in low voices on the way out. I have another Chinese herbal medicine warehouse in City C, which is bigger than the one here. It has 200 tons of saffron stored in it. I will find a few fully enclosed trucks and try to haul it here. Then I also have 2 warehouses in City D, but the road is blocked. Otherwise, I can also transport them here. They all have warehouses everywhere, and no one knows what happened to the Chinese herbal medicines stored in warehouses in other cities. Have to go look for it. If you can find a good warehouse where the medicinal materials are not damaged, you can make a fortune again. Watching the figures of these Chinese herbal medicine bosses disappear into the night, Huami turned and went to the warehouse next door to collect the 100 tons of Cordyceps sinensis. The warehouse next door with Gastrodia alata, the warehouse next door with donkey hide gelatin, and the warehouse next door with seahorse were all put into the 19th level warehouse in one go. Unlock storage level 20, space 20 by 2. When a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X11, Huami suddenly stopped. This warehouse had reached level 20 and had undergone a qualitative change, just like a garbage recycling station. What does this space, 20 by 2, mean? Huami stood in an empty warehouse far away from the garrison, looking carefully at her level 20 storage panel. The small storage icon that originally had only 1 has now become 2. It's like a backpack in the game. Originally, there was only 1 slot in the backpack, but now there are 2 slots. In the first grid, there are many small icons that need to be clicked to enter the next page. This lower-level page contains all the supplies that Huami currently has stored in the level 20 warehouse now. 1. Warehouse number 2 at level 20 was empty, with nothing in it. But the size of this space is the same as warehouse number 1. For a moment, Huami felt overwhelmed with joy. If she had known that her storage space would double after upgrading the storage level, why would she still worry about not having enough storage space? After having fun, Huami planned to clean up the materials in her level 20 storage and then return to Xiangqing to settle the 11 square meters of black land. At this moment, suddenly, there were several footsteps behind me. A male voice with malicious intent sounded. "Hey, you're the only one left here, which, we've been looking for you for a long time, but it's really hard for me to find you." The big henchman said this with gritted teeth and walked into the warehouse with his little henchman. He looked around the empty warehouse, a disgusting look on his face, and asked, "You ran really far away from the garrison. Are you worried that you'll yell too loudly and the garrison won't hear you?" After much difficulty, they finally found Huami, but it turned out that Huami was left alone. God is helping them. However, Demazai didn't know if he remembered it wrongly. He had been to this Chinese herbal medicine area with Zhu Xianjun last time. The warehouses in this area are all filled with Chinese herbal medicines. How come I've searched more than a dozen warehouses in a row, and all of them are empty? Demazai decided to vent his anger on Huami first, and then go back and ask Zhu Xianjun, who was waiting outside. Thinking of this, the big ponies, with a grim smile on their faces, walked towards Huami with a few of his little ponies. Huami waited expressionlessly for the big man to walk to the middle of the warehouse. "Are you also Chenhu's men? Why did you follow me here?" "Yes, we are the boss's people. You killed so many of our brothers. Today you finally fell into our hands." The big man continued to move forward and generously admitted his identity. And he continued to say, "We've been keeping our eyes on you since the B City Supply Depot. If you hadn't been accompanied by a garrison, we would have killed you long ago." Since entering the disaster period, these people have not tasted the taste of frustration for a long time. The more chaotic the world is, the fewer constraints there are on them, and the more they can thrive. Therefore, the loss of so many brothers' lives in the material warehouse in City B was a great shame and humiliation for Zhu Xianjun and his gang. The pony raised his chin and signaled the pony boys behind him, "Play for a while and wait for the big brother to come." The little ponies made strange noises and pounced towards Huami one by one like locusts released from a cage. Crash sound. Before these little thugs could get in front of Huami, a pile of chestnuts fell from the sky, like a heavy rain outside the warehouse. If a chestnut falls on your head, it will at most cause a little pain in your skull. But what about thousands of chestnuts? It was an unimaginable pain, enough to kill a person. Sure enough, the little thugs led by the leader were smashed to death by chestnuts silently. Huami walked over, stepping on the chestnuts, and cleaned up the bodies of the thugs whose heads were broken and bleeding. When she walked out of the warehouse, it was clean, and only a warehouse full of chestnuts was left. Looking at Chichuan and Fang Yuqi's garrison, who were busy moving supplies in the dark, Huami turned around and returned to her Lotus Xingxing supermarket. The community where this supermarket is currently located owns all of her black soil. So, Huami thought about concentrating all the black soil together to grow crops. After all, in this world, if you put a piece of black soil in the east and a piece of black soil in the west, nothing will be planted on them unless they are teleportation points. Otherwise, it will be easy for others to discover and steal the fruits. At the current growth rate of crops on the black soil, it is very likely that a small sapling will grow into a towering tree within a few days right under people's noses. It was easy to be discovered. However, after returning to the Lotus Xingxing supermarket, Huami discovered that simply preventing others from stealing her fruits was useless. She glanced at the surveillance cameras in the supermarket and saw a lot of furtive heads wandering outside the community wall. Because the largest orange tree has grown into a towering tree, occupying the entire yard. The other black soil was squeezed out of the backyard by this orange tree. Even the roots of this orange tree have burst out of the ground. In a short time, when this orange tree grows a little bigger, it may affect the foundation of Lotus Xingxing supermarket. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that if a survivor wears goggles and stands on a higher ground to look, the orange-yellow fruits on the branches will be clearly visible. This orange tree has grown into a giant. Huami was very annoyed. She walked around the largest orange tree, but it seemed that she couldn't keep it. She placed her hands on the giant, sturdy orange tree, thinking that she would put the tree into the level 20 storage. I wonder if it will succeed? As a result, the next moment, the giant orange tree disappeared from its spot. Sure enough, Huami put it into the level 20 warehouse number 2. After making this decision, Huami felt that her heart was bleeding. Under no circumstances did she want to uproot the living orange tree with the soil and store it in the level 20 storage as firewood reserve. It was true that this orange tree grew too fast. Huami didn't know what the consequences would be if it shook the foundation of the Lotus Xingxing supermarket. So she had no choice but to uproot the giant orange trees to save her Lotus Xingxing supermarket. Fortunately, there are still 11 square meters of black soil that have not been settled. At worst, I can plant another orange tree. A lot of citrus fruits planted before have been harvested. When the citrus fruits grow up, people will eat them in the future. This time, Huami still placed the 11 square meters of black soil in the backyard of the supermarket. Without the giant orange tree, a large piece of land was left vacant in the supermarket's backyard. As if to make up for the loss of the giant orange tree, Huami allocated a square meter of land and specially planted the original native orange. Then she planted the remaining 10 square meters of black soil with Chinese medicinal herbs, including scorpion grass, saffron, ginseng, Gastrodia alata, mistletoe, angelica dihurica, solanum nigrum, pokeweed, and Fritillaria serosa. Huami asked Zhong Chongjin for these Chinese herbal medicines. As a supplier of Chinese medicinal materials, Zhong Chongjin has a lot of Chinese herbal medicines. Huami planted all 11 square meters of black soil in one go. She took an apple in her hand and ate it while sitting under the eaves in the backyard of the supermarket, watching the surveillance on the screen of her mobile phone. Her fence is already under construction. Huijing is now fully responsible for the infrastructure work in Xiangqing, and the wall has been raised by half. According to Huijing's construction progress, the entire wall can be repaired in a few days. As for those furtive heads outside the wall, no one knew which side they belonged to. After wandering for a while, they went to find the captain of the migrant workers who was in charge of repairing the wall. Huami frowned and watched the surveillance camera for a while. It seemed that those sneaky people wanted to join the migrant workers team and help repair the community wall. She called Huijing and said, "Don't let the people we recruited today repair the wall of my community. Let them form a clearance team and go to the highway from Xiangqing to City A, regardless of whether Huami knows these people or not, and whether these people have ulterior motives, Huami does not want to take the risk. Who knows if they will take advantage of the opportunity to repair the wall and run into the community to steal fruits. Although Huami's supermarket has cameras installed near it, she will receive security warnings if someone breaks into her supermarket. But there are too many of these little rascals, and she is also very annoyed. If she keeps killing people, she will become a very cold killer and eventually freeze herself to death. Hu Jing responded and agreed. Huami had just hung up the phone with Hu Jing and was about to send a message to Chi Chuan, saying that she had returned directly to the supply warehouse in City B when she discovered that there were hundreds of thousands of oranges stockpiled in her level 20 warehouse number 2. Where did these oranges come from? Didn't Huami's orange trees all die? She was a little surprised for a moment and took a closer look at the level 20 number 2 warehouse, then opened the black soil panel and found that her giant orange tree was still alive. Yes, she put the giant orange tree into the level 20 warehouse number 2. The giant orange tree is still growing, bearing fruit, and maturing. Perhaps because this giant orange tree exists in Huami's level 20 warehouse number 2, Huami does not need to get the oranges with one click after they are ripe. When there are ripe fruits, they will automatically fall off the giant orange tree and be neatly stacked in a corner of the number 2 storage warehouse on level 20. Huami watched helplessly as her orange reserves continued to increase. Obtained oranges X3. Total orange reserves X237853 obtained. Oranges X9. Total oranges X237862. Although only a few oranges are added each time, the increase is very fast. With such a great function, why should Huami worry about whether her fruits will be stolen? She quickly turned around and put the grapefruit tree and apple tree, which had the second highest yield, into the level 20 warehouse number 2. 3 large plots of land next to the Lotus Xingxing supermarket were vacated. Huami felt that it would not be a good idea to harvest more. After all, these 3 types of fruits are currently the ones with the highest yield. If she is not careful, these 3 types of fruits will fill up her level 20 warehouse number 2. Until the supporting facilities catch up, there is no way to upgrade the level 20 warehouse. Then, when Huami takes 2 steps, oranges, grapefruits, and apples will appear all over her body. The highest yielding oranges, grapefruits, and apples have been harvested. Huami looked at her empty backyard and fantasized about the large field of Chinese herbs that would soon grow there. In fact, she didn't know how to use most of the Chinese herbal medicines she planted. But it doesn't matter. When the time comes, we can harvest the Chinese herbal medicines and sell them directly to Kuminghong and the Beast City Rescue Center. You can make a lot of money again. Huami, who was taking a leisurely walk in the heavy rain, called Tang Yu and said that she needed a prenatal checkup, so she went back to Xiangqing alone. I would like to ask if there is any news from Gong Yi. Counting the days, her cubs have already passed the 3-month dangerous period. Because she is pregnant with twins, her lower abdomen is already hard as if she has eaten too much. It's time to go for a prenatal checkup. Because the last time Gong Yi said he wanted to talk to her, he showed a lot of concern for the child, so she wanted to see if Gong Yi could come back and accompany her to the prenatal checkup. Tang Yu answered honestly. The news from the front line said that the boss has entered City A. We don't know the details. It is impossible to explain in so much detail before, after all, it involves the confidentiality of the front-line operations. But in the end, no matter whether it was Chao Feng, Fang Yuqi, or Tang Yu, none of the 3 captains had received any news about supporting the operation in City A, which proved that everything went well. If the garrison is to be mobilized to support City A, it means that Gong Yi's garrison of about 100 people cannot deal with Chen Hu in City A. Huami said and felt relieved. Tang Yu then heard on the phone, Sister Hua, don't worry. As long as we can stabilize the rear, the boss won't have to worry about anything. The rear area is also very important. Chen, who has always wanted the material depot in City B. Because Gong Yi killed Chen Lu, the 3rd son of the Chen family, Chen Hu is filled with hatred towards Gong Yi. He will keep sending people to harass City B or Xiangqing. Sniping these harassers also helped Gong Yi gain some firepower. Huami thought of Gong Yi's spiritual power and then said, I'm just worried that he won't be able to accompany me to the prenatal checkup in time. She said this casually and hung up the phone. Originally, Huami didn't have much hope that Gong Yi could come back. If it weren't for Gong Yi's attitude, Huami would not have planned to tell Gong Yi that he had 2 children. Unexpectedly, Tang Yu turned around and called Chao Feng to tell Hua Mi's not so worrying worries. Chao Feng said on the phone, "Prenatal checkups are a big deal for a woman. I've heard that many women have suffered from postpartum depression and committed suicide by jumping off a building because of prenatal checkups alone." He has been maintaining public security in the emergency area. Ever since he knew that Sister Hua was pregnant, Chao Feng had been observing pregnant women in the emergency area intentionally or unintentionally. There are really many men who force their women to have abortions. So Chao Feng knows a little more than Tang Yu. Tang Yu was shocked by Chao Feng's words. Is it that serious? Will Sister Hua jump off the building due to postpartum depression? What will happen to the child without a mother? What should we do now? He sketched out a picture in his mind. On a tall building, Sister Hua jumped off a building with a sad look on her face, just because the eldest brother did not accompany her for the prenatal checkup. So this postpartum depression is really troublesome. Chao Feng was also worried. How about we accompany Sister Hua to the prenatal checkup? Tang Yu was also worried. Can we do it? When the father of the child is not present, the loss in a woman's heart cannot be replaced by others, right? Then let's call a few more people, including Fang Yuqi. The upright Chao Feng gave advice. Look, this principle of quantity over quality is actually universal in any field. Although we have never been in a relationship and don't have a girlfriend, with 5,000 of us, can't we raise 2 children? This world is really not suitable for raising children. But doesn't Sister Hua have the help of these garrisons? Sister Hua was born under certain conditions. In the emergency area, Chao Feng absorbed a lot of knowledge about maternal and infant care. He has recently been compiling his own booklet, intending to popularize the knowledge he has absorbed about pregnancy and childbirth to the boss and all the garrisons under his command. This way, everyone works together, and there is no need to worry about not being able to take good care of the 2 little ones. Their 5,000 plus garrisons are the confidence that these 2 children can be born safely. Tang Yu thought about it seriously for a long time and felt that it was feasible. He called Fang Yuqi again and told her that the eldest brother might not be able to come back in time to accompany Sister Hua for the prenatal checkup. If no one accompanies Sister Hua to the checkup, she will jump off the building due to postpartum depression, and the 2 children will be without a father to take care of them and a mother to love them. Otherwise, the 3 garrison captains will accompany Sister Hua to the prenatal checkup. Fang Yuqi was surprised that the problem was so serious. He agreed immediately and asked, "What should I prepare? I have a new garrison uniform that I usually don't wear. How about I wear this one?" Once they were worn out and torn, no new garrison uniforms were issued, because the current garrison factories are all buried in ruins. Therefore, Fang Yuqi usually cherishes this new garrison uniform very much. Then I'll put on my new uniform too. Tang Yu also decided to wear new ones. The 3 garrison captains under Gong Yi discussed the matter and immediately drove to Xiangqing. It was when Huami had a good sleep, got herself ready, and stood at the door of the emergency area. She saw 3 garrison captains in brand new clothes, standing in a row, wearing goggles with the lights off on their faces, with their hands pressed against their trouser seams, standing straight like flagpoles. Huami was a little surprised and asked Tang Yu and Fang Yuqi, "Why are you 2 here? Shouldn't one of them be guarding the supply warehouse in City B, while the other should be transporting supplies in City B? What are you doing at the entrance of the emergency department?" Tang Yu looked solemn and a little nervous, and immediately answered in a sonorous voice, "Report. I came here specially to get the bag for Sister Hua and serve her tea and water." Fang Yuqi was also accompanying a woman for a prenatal checkup for the first time. She was even more nervous than Tang Yu and shouted loudly, "Report. I came here specifically to see the B ultrasound results and technically analyze the doctor's recommendations." Huami was confused and looked at Chao Feng with doubt. She didn't know what Tang Yu and Fang Yuqi were up to. Chao Feng also said loudly, "Report. I am responsible for keeping watch. Don't let others bump into Sister Hua. Look, The division of labor is clear and meticulous. Just to be honest, how could 5,000 plus garrisons fail to take good care of 2 children and a pregnant woman? This matter should be broken down into individual tasks, and if everyone does a little, there will be no need for the eldest brother to show up in person when Sister Hua is in confinement after childbirth. What's worse, with more than 5,000 people stationed there, everyone takes shifts and each person takes care of a child for a day. The children grow up to be teenagers, and Sister Hua and the eldest brother don't have to take care of the children themselves. Huami was overwhelmed and carefully observed the 3 garrison captains in front of him who were fully armed and dressed in brand new uniforms. No, do they have any special mission? If they have a special mission that requires her cooperation, just tell them directly. She can swing a machine gun with a big belly. So the 3 garrison captains gathered together. It must be a very difficult task. The 3 men were acting as if they were facing a great enemy. They surrounded Huami and entered the emergency area together. This group of people actually went straight to Xian Chiru's office in the emergency area. Along the way, the guards were also nervous. One of the guards saw Huami coming from a distance and immediately pressed the wireless intercom on his shoulder. Attention! Sister Hua is here. Clear all dangers on the road that could cause people to fall or panic. Road Section A is barrier-free. Section B is barrier-free. There's a cockroach on the corner. Eliminate immediately. Cockroaches may cause Sister Hua to be nervous, and nervousness will be bad for the fetus. Chao Feng said that since the boss is not around, the baby in Sister Hua's belly will be the responsibility of the 5,000 plus garrison troops. Huami was frightened by these garrisons. She felt that the garrison must have encountered a huge trouble, but the garrison didn't say anything. If you don't tell her, she won't know when to take out the machine gun and fight with others. Huami came to Xian Chiru's office nervously and measured her blood pressure first.
Xin cư Frauen.
Fong Yuqi, who was in charge of technical analysis of the prenatal examination results, immediately took a step forward, took out a small notebook and a pen, and began to take notes. Dr. Xian, please ask if you have any questions. It's okay. It's just that my blood pressure is a little low. Xian Chiru felt that Huami was in an extremely calm and dormant state, and the blood pressure measurement might be a little deviant, but it was not a big problem. Fong Yuqi started to record in a small notebook. After Xian Chiru finished writing the maternal and infant file book, she drove out the 3 garrison captains and did other examinations on Huami. 3 garrison captains, who looked like door gods, were standing outside Xian Chiru's office. Someone stationed on the intercom couldn't wait to ask, "Captain, what are the results of Sister Hua's prenatal examination?" Fong Yuqi looked at the words on the notebook, low blood pressure. This was like a pot of boiling water. The garrison asked in a flurry over the intercom, "Why is your blood pressure so low? Did you eat something you shouldn't have? Has the water Sister Hua drank today been checked? Is it a problem with the water? That's not right. The cockroaches have been killed. How can the blood pressure still be low? I just checked online. Low blood pressure is caused by syringomyelia or mitral valve or aortic stenosis." I don't know which garrison it was, but when they heard this, everyone suddenly felt like the world was collapsing. Is there any hope for Sister Hua? Chao Feng, Tang Yu, and Fong Yuqi all looked solemn. They had just made a plan to raise 5,000 plus garrisons, and they were faced with the first difficulty. Yes, that's right. It's so easy to take care of a pregnant woman and raise a baby together with 5,000 plus people. But at the same time, the anxiety of pregnancy and raising a baby has been multiplied by more than 5,000 times. After Huami came out of Xian Chiru's office, Tang Yu hurried over to take Huami's bag. Chao Feng circled around Huami, fearing that she would be bumped into by someone. Fong Yuqi immediately went into Xian Chiru's office and had a long talk with Xian Chiru about Huami's examination results. He asked very detailed questions, covering all the issues that the 5,000 plus garrisons were concerned about. Why is my blood pressure so low? Is it hopeless? Is there anything wrong with Sister Hua's heart? What about the child's heart? Is low blood pressure hereditary? What can they do? Xian Chiru kicked Feng Yuqi out of the office. She explained repeatedly that the child was fine and very healthy, and that the error in low blood pressure was not significant and might be related to Huami's mood. Then, it was related to depression. Isn't mood related to depression? The more Xian Chiru explained, the more confused she became. Although Feng Yuqi was the only person sitting in her office, Feng Yuqi had more than 5,000 questions. She didn't have time to answer them one by one, so she couldn't stand it anymore and kicked Feng Yuqi out of the office. Next, Xian Chiru was angry and asked the next pregnant woman to come in. Feng Yuqi didn't want to delay the prenatal checkups of other pregnant women, so he could only inform all the garrisons through the intercom and mobile phone. You should study on your own online. Because of Gong Yi's generosity, he wholesaled 5,000 plus universal signal connectors from Huami and equipped each garrison with one. The magical universal signal connector can ignore all obstacles and allow everyone to surf the internet freely. If you have any questions, just check it online. Because they were worried that Huami might be at risk of depression, everyone kept the matter a secret and no one told Sister Hua a single word. Huami was so nervous that she was escorted back to the Lotus Xingxing supermarket by the 3 garrison captains. Until she entered the supermarket alone, she still didn't understand what the special mission of these garrisons was today. At this time, Gong Yi, who was far away in Xiangqing, had led the 100 garrisons he brought to City A and raided Chun, whose villa complex. Don't mention that Chun, who has a lot of people. There are really a lot of them, but it is not difficult for Gong Yi to rush into the villa complex. After determining the range and basic firepower deployment, there is nothing Gong Yi can't handle. Just charge in, and it's done. In the dark night, in the heavy rain, gunshots came one after another, and someone stationed on the wireless intercom reported, "Boss, Chun who is not found. Boss, Chun who is not in the villa complex. Boss, Chun who doesn't live in this villa complex. Lu Xingyuan has fallen into a trap. Boss, we found Lu Xingyuan his leg." As the leading traitor, Lu Xingyuan's legs had been sawed off by Chen Hu, and Chen Hu did not give Lu Xingyuan any measures to stop the bleeding. He threw Lu Xingyuan into an iron cage, and no one cared about his life or death anymore. If Lu Xingyuan hadn't been lucky, he would have held on for a few days until Gong Yi's men found him. Maybe he's already dead. When Gong Yi heard the news, he just rushed past a villa. His brows furrowed as a bullet headed for his shoulder blade and stopped at the outermost layer of his bulletproof vest. A transparent cover suddenly appeared at the tip of the bullet, using a mysterious power to prevent the bullet from approaching Gong Yi's body. A surge of anger rose up in Gong Yi's heart. A gentleman can be killed, but not humiliated. Shooting Lu Xingyuan is better than humiliating and torturing him like this. When Huami received Gong Yi's message, she was in the Lotus Xingxing supermarket, giving herself a pedicure. She must trim her toenails before her belly gets too big. Otherwise, when her belly gets too big, her waist and legs won't be able to bend. I heard Gong Yi ask her on the phone if there was any way to get them back to Xiangqing quickly, because Lu Xingyuan can't hold on for long. Huami threw down the nail clippers in her hand, jumped up and put on her clothes. Didn't I give you a stack of teleportation tickets last time? Use them to teleport all the injured back. There are no survivors. Gong Yi's voice was heavy. There was no one left alive. A team of City A garrison led by Lu Xingyuan suddenly broke into Chen Hu's villa complex, trying to rescue the commander of the City A garrison. Except Lu Xingyuan, no one was left alive. Huami, who ran down from the second floor of the supermarket, stopped. She stood in the middle of her own Lotus Xingxing supermarket, feeling inexplicably tragic and majestic. So, even the garrison commander of City A is dead? This Chun, who is really doing evil. Come back first. Huami cleared her throat to clear the blockage. No matter what, get Lu Xingyuan back first. I'll call Kuming Hong and ask him to find a way to save him. Distribute the teleportation tickets I gave you last time to all the garrisons, and then return instantly with Lu Xingyuan in your arms. The medicine in her level 15 factory cannot revive a lifeless person. So after Huami finished calling Kuming Hong, she teleported to Xiangqing Watchtower. Energy light ball may be able to save Lu Xingyuan. Not long after she hung up the phone with Gong Yi, she bumped into Gong Yi in a burst of brilliant laser beams. Gong Yi hugged Huami tightly. It was his first time teleporting, and his head was a mess. If Huami hadn't pulled him aside, Gong Yi would have stepped on Lu Xingyuan on the ground. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Huami hurriedly commanded Gong Yi to Lu Xingyuan out of the one-square teleportation point. In just a moment, the laser beam became as bright as day, and one after another, the garrisons appeared in the beam of light like stacked darhats. Fortunately, Lu Xingyuan was rescued early. Otherwise, if this continued, the last bit of energy he had left would have been crushed. Huami didn't have time to think about more issues. She was busy trying to give the energy light ball to Lu Xingyuan. But by accident, he took out the energy drop. It was thrown directly onto Lu Xingyuan. Lu Xingyuan suddenly opened his eyes, sat up and roared, "Chenhu, kill me if you have the guts, kill me." Gong Yi was startled by Lu Xingyuan. He looked at Huami, who had an innocent look on her face, and spread her hands. "I took the wrong one." At this time, Kuminghong and others drove an ambulance over with the sound of beeps. From afar they saw a brilliant, magical, and magnificent laser beam at the city gate, rising into the sky, so dazzling that everyone could not see what was happening under the watchtower. Lu Xingyuan was still roaring, and he fell into a state of rage. Seeing that something was wrong with him, several garrisons climbed out from the pile of armor and tried to control Lu Xingyuan. But he was knocked away by a punch from Lu Xingyuan, who had both legs broken. He was very strong, like Popeye, with his muscles bulging out. His tattered garrison uniform could no longer hold up and was about to burst into pieces. Gong Yi looked at Huami again. Huami still looked innocent. She knew that energy drops were more effective than energy light. Look, Lu Xingyuan's strength is almost as great as that of a person with special powers. Beat whoever you see. Compared with those who used energy light ball, they also have an indiscriminate attack. Gong Yi pulled Huami behind him and said, "Stand back, so I don't hit you." Then he looked at Lu Xingyuan smashing his fist to the ground in the open space. The gorgeous light show suddenly went dark for some reason. "Oh my land!" Huami's little heart trembled. She had repaired the teleportation point with great difficulty. "Everyone, stay away." Gong Yi pressed the wireless intercom, gave orders to all the garrisons, and pulled Huami back a few steps. Before being teleported back, Gong Yi had already used hemostatic gel and painkillers on Lu Xingyuan. The incision on the broken leg was also wrapped with a sterile bandage. No matter how Lu Xingyuan struggled, the hemostatic gel on the wound would not break. In this situation, Lu Xingyuan's life should not be in much danger. Kuminghong and others led the medical staff, enduring the colorful lights, and hurried over, but were also stopped by the garrison. He looked at Lu Xingyuan, who was screaming in pain under the bright lights, and said to the medical staff around him, "This is classic PTSD. The teleportation point is outside the city, but this area has been planned and tents are not allowed, so there are no ordinary survivors around. Fortunately, there are no ordinary survivors otherwise who can stop Lu Xingyuan here." Gong Yi looked at Kuminghong, frowned, and asked, "What should we do now?" He had heard of post-traumatic stress disorder and had suffered from it himself for a period of time. For people like them, this obstacle is not unfamiliar. However, this was the first time Gong Yi had seen a patient with such great strength. Kuminghong was also having a headache. There is no other way to deal with it. Now we can only let Lu Xingyuan continue to vent his emotions. Then wait until he can calm down on his own and regain his sanity. Regardless of how much strength you have or whether the strength is reasonable or not, the current psychological problem still has the same solution. Mainly focus on guidance.
Gong Yi understood.
He protected Huami and continued to retreat. Only after they exited the teleportation point did he take a good look at Huami. The man stared at Huami's face with a sharp gaze, and the sharpness in his eyes gradually softened. Looking at Gong Yi's gaze, Huami suddenly felt a little embarrassed. God knows. Why should she feel embarrassed? Gong Yi's eyes fell on Huami's belly and asked, "You're not scared, are you?" I don't know whether he was asking Huami or his two daughters. Huami rubbed her belly randomly. Without
Hey.
Rub it gently. Gong Yi was a little afraid of the two little girls in the belly who were being twisted by Huami. He gestured to the garrison nearby. You go with them and find a place to sit. I'll go see Lu Xingyuan. In the time it took to say just a few words, Lu Xingyuan broke several of Huami's lights. The lights are buried in cement grooves and sealed with tempered glass. Gong Yi settled Huami down and hurried to Lu Xingyuan's side. He looked at all the garrisons that had teleported back and were still in a state of confusion, and shouted, "Line up." The garrisons, who had just crawled out of the pile of tents, immediately became energetic and lined up. Strangely, Lu Xingyuan, who had both legs broken and was smashing things on the ground, suddenly became quiet. He turned his head left and right, his mind confused, still searching for his formation. In a moment, he crawled to the first row and the first column of the garrison formation not far away. Gong Yi's protruding Adam's apple rolled. He didn't say anything and clenched his cheeks tightly. Seeing this scene, Huami suddenly felt a little sad. This is the garrison, and those commands are almost engraved in their souls. Even if they're still in an unconscious state, they will still act on instinct. She turned away, unable to bear to look any further. In order to divert her attention, Huami took out her cell phone and called Chi Chuan first. Do you have any way to find a pair of prosthetic limbs? Ikuwa was silent for a moment. He keenly realized that Huami's question represented a serious matter. So Ikegawa didn't act as playful and nonchalant as before, and just said, "Let me ask around." Although this is not mass-produced, it was sold before the disaster. As long as it's for sale, Ikegawa will find a way to find it. Huami said very seriously, "I'm counting on you."